blast, ye scurvy dogs!
Ahoy, me hearties.
Shiver me timbers, you scurvy bilge rats.
I want to pillage your booty.
Hoist the sails, or hoist the anchor, and something to say, I don't know.
Jolly me Roger.
Jolly me Roger, because it be talk like a pirate day, so get to swabbing the deck.
Cleave him to the brisket. I have a whole list of pirate sayings. It's a good day.
So serious right now.
The harshy blows.
Yeah, serious as I don't. Davy
Scurvy.
Jones locker. Serious as scurvy.
They're both good, yeah.
Both good. Take your pick. Because it be one of my favorite holidays of the year. International
Honestly,
Talk Like a Pirate Day.
It's turned into one of mine. I'm vastly in the mood.
It hits every year.
Yeah.
It hits every single time. And it rolls around, and I send an aggressive all caps text into the family group chat, and only my dad responds because he's the only person that cares about Talk Like a Pirate Day. So it's just the two of us aggressively pirate speaking back and forth in the midst of a group chat. And that's really what the whole day is about. And now, as of last year and also this year, it's about pirate romances. I mean, truly shiver me timbers.
They've been shivered. I have read nothing but pirate romances in the past, 72 hours.
Yeah.
It's going to my head. There are a lot of things happening. I have had a fascinating experience. I feel like no matter what your mood is, no matter which, if you want full-on swashbuckling pirate versus just a hint of pirate and your mostly standard historical romance, I feel like I've got a rec for everyone on that scale. There's just they're just so different.
Yeah.
Than anything else. They really are. I mean, the ones that I've read this weekend have all been great.
Yeah. But also from each other. They're also very the ones that I've read anyway are very different from each other, as well as
I tried to read some different. I did Gentle Rogue. I wasn't going to because I was I don't have time. I made time.
As you should. As everyone should, actually, now that I've read that book.
Very true. I have a need to go back and read the rest of that series. Same. I'm very intrigued.
Just wild that we went from Prisoner of My Desire to that.
How?
I don't know what order those were written, but just the fact that those are the only two Johanna Lindsey I've read.
Yeah. It's my brain. Yeah. I don't.
The duality of man.
Yeah, there's a dissonance. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I can't say that I recommend just reading boom, 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 pirate romance after pirate romance after pirate romance.
I do.
It's they just they blend together, but they're also different. And then it's just you're who's tied to who, where bombs.
Not somebody commenting on my TikTok in this moment recommending me another pirate romance I've never. Well, Daphne du Maurier.
Someone recommended that to me too. She said it wasn't traditional, but she did recommend it. Let me see.
Interesting.
Let me see. Not your usual fare, but Frenchman's Creek by Daphne du Maurier.
Yeah,
is
that's
that the one I was recommending? Yeah. Thank you, Carrie. I don't.
And Autumn.
I did not have time to get to it.
I literally just got the the comment just now, so I also did not. I mean, if you pull different enough pirate romances, because I read campy to really meticulously researched to where's my?
I think we had such different experiences. Mine were all just
dark and violent to now kind of quirky and fun.
Yeah, I don't even know what did I even read, guys? I don't even know at this point in my life. Lady Pirate Cat. Wow.
I mean, I've been having the time of my life.
It's been so good. They've all been 5 stars. Like, I can't. And it's like, and I'm like, maybe it's not 5 stars. And then I'll read like the next page. I'm like, just kidding. It is. Like, it. I've been on
mostly
the high
4.
seas. Yeah.
But it'll always be like just one thing that like just bothered me enough that I'm like, it didn't quite get me to a 5. But like I have a great time. It's always just like maybe one thing that knocks it down just a star.
Yeah. That was me with Gentle Rogue until the end, and then it was just so funny. Like, I mean, it was funny the entire time, but like there were just some things that like
there are some cinematic moments in that book.
We need to next season we need to just do an episode on it because I already have a lesson that they give in the book and it's super easy. So like, you know,
I have been thinking about the scene where she's having a very genuine conversation with her brother, while in the background he is physically fighting off like a whole row of sailors, and then he just appears behind her. I think about that at least once a day.
He's like, great.
Yeah, he's like, we're leaving now. But like, it's like so. It's giving movie, it's giving cinematography. I can just see down below on the lower deck and in the background him single-handedly fist fighting all of these men while she's having an earnest heart-to-heart with her brother in the foreground. And it makes me cackle.
I have a note. Instead of go piss girl, it's go puke girl. Because their whole bit was that she was getting nauseous because she was turned on. What a bit that was.
Incredible. I saw a bad review that somebody left where they like hated that bit because it just didn't make sense. And I was like, do you just despise fun?
You can't call yourself a pirate.
Like,
if you don't like that bit.
It's such a funny bit. Okay, we need to back up. We need to Welcome to Romance Your TBR, me mateys.
Oh yeah.
I shouldn't say welcome. Avast. Ahoy.
Ahoy. That, yeah.
And welcome to Romance Your TBR.
But suddenly I've forgotten every piratical term
I don't know.
Phrase.
Ahoy.
Me hearties.
Ahoy me hearties. And step on board.
Or walk the plank.
Because we are setting sail here on Romance Your TBR. The HMS Romance Your TBR.
We are giving Her Majesty 20 to 40% in taxes. So we're privateers, actually. I learned the difference this weekend between a privateer and a pirate. And it all comes down to taxes. Teach you that?
Oh, you're not really a Shadow and Bone person. Never mind.
You mentioned that person last time, and I was like, ha ha ha, smile and wave. Okay. Did not know who you were talking about. Now I see it's Shadow and Bone. Mm-hmm. We've come to the
that's my
epic conclusion of this.
His whole
this saga.
He has like a lot. He's actually a prince, but he has Grisha change his face so that he's a pirate. He has like an alter ego essentially because he's a younger prince.
All of these pirates have alter
do what he wants. Sure, but this one is like magical face and body altering.
Yeah, that hasn't happened in any of these.
But the whole running bit is that everyone keeps calling him a pirate, and he corrects them every single time to say privateer.
I see. I mean, it does mean a difference of, like, being hung. So, I mean, I guess I would, too, correct if I was weak. I'm not. I'm a pirate, guys. But, yeah, I learned the difference. I think one book said 40%, another book said 20%. I don't quite know if it was different between... I think this one had a king, the other one had a queen. So... must have changed throughout history, but yeah, I've learned stuff. So
you've learned stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find. There's a bit in the Amalie Howard where the girl is asking her. She's pretending to be a pirate, you know, as she does. And she says, "I'm Bonnie Bess, Scourge of the Caribbean Sea," which of course is Lisbeth is Bonnie Bess. So, I mean, she knows. Yeah, Narina knows her as Bonnie Bess, so she is pretending to be her. And she says, "I have it on excellent authority that Bonnie Bess is not a pirate; she's a smuggler." And the girl goes, "That's because you are her. What's the difference?" And she says, "Pirates attack ships on the seas and plunder them. Smugglers help get goods to people who need them without paying astronomical duties." And she says, "So smugglers are good?" And she goes, "No, they're not." And she's like, "Oh no." So there's it's complicated. I've got some pirates, I've got some smugglers, I've got some privateers, I've got some piratical sailors.
I agree. I feel like the one that we're both currently reading, I mean, he's pretty close to a pirate.
He is a pirate.
Yeah, like I feel like he's like the most pirate that I've read.
Oh, really?
Out of these, yeah.
All right. Well,
I feel like the other one's kind of like
I've read some pretty piratey pirates.
I've read more of just like funny books. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. There are ships. There's water.
Yeah. Well, you haven't guessed.
There's like consummation after they got him super drunk and they got married.
Oh dear.
But he wasn't the pirate. She was the pirate. It's a whole thing. It was wild.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Fair enough, really.
Can't argue with that.
No.
If you haven't figured it out, for Talk Like a Pirate Day, we're just talking pirate romances.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, have we read quite a few in the past few days. Yeah. And also some in the past. But mostly in the past few days.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, will I be reading some more.
I know. Which is unfortunate to my TBR.
I know I accidentally added like 2 different trilogies because I read the first book in said trilogies and then was like, well, I guess I have to finish this now.
I'm like, the Lindsey Sands it was just a standalone, so is this Teresa Medeiros, and I'm like, why can't we have more of these? I need more. Because they'll like introduce other piratical figures. I'm like, but what about them? What do you mean?
What about
they don't get a book?
Them? The what about me?
Because there's like hot siblings, like all of them have just like hot.
What about love?
Swarthy. What about piracy?
So true.
Not digital piracy. Only of the high seas. That's our.
In this podcast,
I'm not a pirate.
We only endorse.
Yeah.
IRL piracy of the high seas.
Yeah, we were raised by the anti-bootlegging piracy ads using like Casablanca or something in black and white, making it very dramatic that we should not burn.
Piracy is not
DVDs.
A victimless crime.
Exactly. It's not. The victim...
In this case is me.
Yeah.
The victim in all of these is me.
Yeah.
The lowest I have ever rated a pirate romance is 3 stars. Now, granted, I've avoided pirate romances that have pretty low general consensus ratings. But, like, I've read some controversial ones, and I came out just applauding.
She came out of the womb applauding, guys. She's a pirate at heart.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've read... I mean, I haven't read a lot. I think I've read, like, 6 that I could talk... 6.5 that I can talk about.
Oh boy, I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus a bonus one that's not really a pirate romance.
Yeah, you've been training for this your entire life. This is your Super Bowl.
However, technically 12, I guess, because 10 and 11. Well, India Holton. We got 3 books.
Oh, you're so right.
And those are historical, but like
fantastical
fantasy pirates. Yeah. And not all of them are only about pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And the pirates aren't of the high seas. They are of the air.
I was going to say the high air. Yeah.
The high houses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
about that.
If you're listening to this, I feel like you must have already read India Holton's books. Because surely you haven't gone this long without picking them up.
Son of a biscuit eater. If you haven't.
Son of a biscuit eater.
Splice the main brace.
Oh my.
Squiffy.
I feel like I should Google some pirate phrases to just insert at random. You need like a pirate themed.
Yeah, there is. There's like
no. You need a pirate themed sound of some kind.
Oh, I do. I have already searched pirate music.
Okay, well, I love that.
Yeah. So
I meant
you've
like a
probably
la
already heard
Taylor
it,
Swift
listener.
reference, where you
Huh?
did the little ding.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time.
Oh.
We need
That
like
makes
I
yes.
don't know what that would be. Maybe
Quack.
it's just arg every single time.
I'll splice that everywhere.
Please
Arg!
don't. I can't.
We'll see what I can come up with in a cool 24 hours. Let's see.
24
Let's
hours.
see here.
Woo.
Yeah. Sea legs. Just savvy? Sail ho!
Okay, blow me down. So starting off, we got India Holton's. We got
Yes.
a pirate romance to kick us off with the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Except, of course, that they are magical and they fly houses, and it's all very proper.
Mm-hmm.
And then book 2 is, of course, a pirate and a witch. Alex O'Reilly, the man that you are.
I love him.
And then, of course, book 3, neither of them are pirates. They're spies, but they are in a pirate house party. So, pirates abound.
Pirates abound.
just like in this episode. Pirates abound. So, I mean, that can't go wrong there, truly.
No. No. Those books. Dare I say it's been too long since I've read them, and it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
But in my soul of souls, it's been too long.
But in my heart.
Yeah. My cold, piratical heart.
So we have that one. I'm trying to trace my pirate romance journey because most of them I did read very recently. However,
my first one that was like pirate tangential, like my review is contradictory. On one hand, it says there were no pirates. On the other hand, I said it was pirate adjacent. I don't quite know who I trust. Both of them are me, and I'm not very trustworthy, so who knows?
Pirates inside of you?
I want more than 2 pirates inside of me, if I'm being honest. I've met a lot of good pirates.
I mean, that's a lot of pirate at the same time.
Sure.
I feel like
we can make it work.
Hurt. I guess it depends. Not all in the same.
No. I feel like the math can math in this. We can figure it out.
I feel like 2 pirates is my max.
You heard it here first, guys. 2 pirates. Caroline's max. You just reminded me of a piratical threesome that Adriana Herrera wrote in her Villain I'd Like to F novella.
I'm unaware.
I just saw the soul leave your body.
I could have read a pirate threesome by Adriana Herrera.
Yeah, you could have. I forgot about that. I'm so sorry.
Me.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, it was, again, kind of pirate adjacent, but like, it's in the villain anthology.
We actually have to stop recording right now so that I can go read the pirate.
It was the best one in that anthology. That entire thing was kind of a letdown, but Adriana did not let me down. She hoisted me up. I was a flag waving that day. Yeah, it was a really good one. It was like the captain, and then she was like a stowaway, and then he was maybe like the second. I don't know. It was good. MMF. Let me see what that one was called. Villain I'd like to F in all the holes.
Oh my, that's graphic.
Okay. The Bootlegger's Bounty. So we've entered bootlegging territory. My 1-sentence summary: even on a boat, she only gets wet for criminals.
Slay.
Yeah.
Not me immediately checking this anthology out from the library just for that.
Yeah, it was real good.
Okay, well,
going down on the captain while he was steering.
Jesus.
Wow. That's fun.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah. Oh my god. All hands and knees were, oh my god. All hands and knees on deck. That really is the tagline.
Fair enough. So, can't argue with that.
Yeah, so have a good time with that one. I forgot about that. I did forget about that. But everything's coming out of the woodwork here.
Yeah.
Yeah. back to the other one I was talking about when I had a brainwave. It was Hero Wanted by Betina Krahn, and there's like a literal pirate ship on it. And it made you think that it was going to be about pirates because they get shipwrecked, but it wasn't really. It was a really good book, but it wasn't at the same time. I don't quite know. I think they were kidnapped by pirates like at the end. But the thing, it starts out, I think they're just like two aristocrats being set up, and then they're on like a date. They're like on a little canoe or whatever, and then someone like goes in the water, and she like tells the guy to get in, and he's like, I'm not gonna do that. And then she gets in and she saves the people, and then she's like angry at him, and then they call off their engagement. It's a whole thing. Yeah, because he doesn't like the water. I do remember them getting kidnapped, and there is a boat that they are on at the end, but it was also like fade to black, closed door in the most painful way.
Oh dear.
And it hurt really badly, but it was like really well written. So I don't quite know how to. Yeah, it was hard. Betina Krahn, I've read one of her other ones that was like one of her older ones. And that one also wasn't very heavy on the steam, so I don't quite know her levels. But this one was a recent one. Like 2020, 2021 maybe. But yeah. That was like my first one, I guess, in my historical romance era that I had dabbled with.
Yeah.
I didn't even really know it.
I think other than the India Holton, the only one that is like sort of adjacent that I had read was Dukes Do It Better by Bethany Bennett.
Someone commented on that on my Instagram.
Interesting. I mean, I love that series.
Mm-hmm.
You meet him in the epilogue of the first book because he the heroine of the first book's brother drags the villain off and gives him to this guy who is a Navy captain, but he falsifies papers and has the villain transported.
Hot.
It is hot, but he's like sitting in I mean it's been a hot minute since I read any of those books, let alone the first one. If I recall, he's like sitting in a tavern like drinking, and he meets with the guy and they like discuss him transporting this very bad guy.
It's been so
and he
long.
Says something about, I think I'd like to meet your sister. And the guy is like, absolutely not. And then the sister is the heroine of his book.
But I remember the sister from book 2. I like started book 3, but I never finished it.
Yeah, so the third one, she is a widowed single mother hanging out in like a seaside town. She makes a lot of baked goods. She's got her little son, and she lives in a little cottage, and she has a one-night stand with a hot naval captain. Yeah. And then there's also a whole plot line where like he has her diary but doesn't realize that it's hers, and she's kind of like a lifeline for him. So there's like that whole side plot. Anyway, they both end up in London, and they both are like, what if we just continued to have a little no strings attached thing going on for a hot minute? And then the feelings happen, which neither of them expected. However, 2 things imprinted on me. Actually, 3. Number 1, baby goats wearing diapers. Number 2, oh shoot, it immediately left my mind. So I missed it. Oh, no, sorry. It was a wooden dildo named Roger.
Oh.
Number 3 was coloring in the tattoo.
That's the Jolly Roger we all want.
Jolly Roger indeed. Number 3 was him. She walks into his room and he's laying there shirtless, letting her little son watercolor his tattoos. Also, he like helps him learn how to sail a little mini boat on the river and stuff. Like it gives you the dad content. Yeah. But he's like hot and tattooed, and at the end, like it's not on a boat, except on the end there is a treasure map that his dead dad left him to go find something. So that's a fun little piratical thing. Nice. Anyway, again, not a pirate romance, but if you want,
we're like pirate adjacent in this house.
Just a little. If you're like, I would like to dip my toe into the waters, but not jump off the plank
and be shark bait. Hoo ha ha. That's what apparently it's called.
Yeah, but also Nemo. Nice. Yeah, thank you. There you go. Also, don't read Dukes Do It Better without reading the first 2 books in the series.
That is very true.
So.
And book 2, we mentioned in our last episode, changed me for the better. And maybe a little bit for the worse, but in a good way. The next one that I had read, probably like of my own accord, not knowing it was pirate, is The Ugly Duchess by Eloisa James. And you've read that one as well, right?
No.
Really?
Nope. Haven't gotten there.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, okay. This completely changes how I was going to approach this. Okay. Well, they're like childhood friends. They're very good friends. She has never been considered like a beauty, and they're getting married. And his father's a bad guy. She overhears something. Like, they have a pretty good wedding night. Like, they both kind of rock their socks off each other. Like, pretty good. And then she overhears his father, and then he did something bad. Didn't feel so good for him. But, like, anyway, she banishes him. She's like, we're no longer married. Get out of my house. Don't come by my house. Don't call me, whatever.
Don't call me.
And he just leaves. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna go. He turns into a pirate.
Of course.
He's like gone for 7 years. Literally thinks that his marriage is over. Kind of has like a Princess Bride-esque Dread Pirate Roberts situation where he basically interns for a great pirate, turns into this great pirate, gets really good at sex in between there because he
obviously,
like yeah. So like the reviews, people don't like the infidelity, but
that's
honestly,
not infidelity.
Their marriage, like he did not think that they were like they both were not married.
It doesn't count as infidelity if both parties are no longer emotionally consider themselves in a relationship, even if they are emotionally involved.
Do enjoy when both are having sex with other people.
I mean, fair.
Most, like this one, she didn't have sex with anyone else. There was a Lorraine Heath where I preferred her to be the one having orgasms rather than him because he didn't deserve them. But like in this one, he was only, but like he became sexually skilled, guys. What do you want me to say? Like his piratical escapades led to orgasms for her. I really can't be bothered. It was just a really fun book, and she like became a really well-known like fashion icon of the ton, and then she wanted to get divorced or like declare him dead, I guess. And then when she was in court, he like storms in, leather breeches, I think, huge, throws her over his shoulder. He's like, I'm not dead. We're still married, walks out, and then the entire rest of the book is him just kind of like groveling and doing the deed with his sexual skills that he learned in the high seas. So it was a really good one. That series is kind of nutty. Has some highs, has some lows. That one was a pretty big high. I was like, yo, only Eloisa. It was really good. So definitely recommend for like a marriage in trouble, but also sexy pirates. So yeah,
sexy pirates.
Let's love to love it.
I mean, if we're going chronologically,
yeah,
I did throw myself into the deep end at this point in my reading pirate romances. I did not ease into this one. I dove head first. And that was The Windflower by Laura London.
Oh, fuck, I didn't. Okay.
I know, and you betrayed me by not reading it, even though I told you had to.
I completely forgot. I thought I hit all the notes.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It hurt my soul a little bit, but it's fine.
It hurts my soul. I completely forgot about it.
This is a probably 600 page.
That did contribute to me forgetting about it. If I'm being honest.
So it wasn't entirely unintentional.
I think, well, it was the last 2 days I definitely did not think about that book. I feel like before that, I was like, that's so long, and I have a limited amount of time. But I genuinely forgot about it.
Valid, except that it's not.
Yeah,
because here's the thing about The Windflower by Laura London. Which, number one, just an interesting factoid, Laura London was actually a married couple who co-wrote.
Hell yeah. I like that. That's fun.
Number two, this book is like an old school, almost but not quite bodice ripper.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this probably on the podcast before, so
It
folks
was a
may
long time
recall.
ago.
Yeah, but it's been a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like an adventure screwball comedy in which this very silly young American girl. Let me read you the first line of this book, actually, because I feel like that'll.
And you did it on audio, so it is available. I think it's not at any library. I know I have to do it from Audible.
I did
Or
it.
Scribd, maybe?
Oh, is it on Audible? I don't know. I did it through.
It's on Audible, yeah.
It was while I was working for. It's the reissue is from Forever, so I was able to access the audiobook that way. The very first line of this book is Mary Patricia Wilding. Mary spelled Merry, by the way, that's her name. Mary Patricia Wilding was sitting on a cobblestone wall, sketching 3 rutabagas and daydreaming about the unicorn.
Me too.
Number 1, relatable. Number 2, kind of almost like Manic Pixie Dream Girl before that was like a thing. Like, that's her energy.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like silly, but like she's also very endearing. Like you're like, you're almost too stupid to live, but I also love you. Because she's just so whimsical. I don't know.
In touch with her whimsical nature.
She's in touch with her whimsical nature. Yeah, exactly. And she ends up, it's this kind of convoluted, like her family was British but moved to America, I guess, before she was born. So now they're like fighting for the Americans in the War of 1812. But her
infamous.
So she's a really talented artist. So like her brother uses her to sketch people like for wanted posters and things, and they go undercover to this tavern, and these pirates show up, and she kind of tries to get out of it, and she gets grabbed by one of the pirates, and he's really hot, and they have a moment. And then he lets her go. Yeah. He lets her go, but then later she's getting on this boat to go back to England. And because of a prank that one of the servants plays, she ends up in the captain's or not the captain, but this like British official's cabin. Like they move her in there, and she ends up, while she's in there, she gets kidnapped and dragged off this boat by these pirates. And then one of the pirates from the tavern finds them and takes her from them and takes her back to the boat because he recognizes her as the girl that other pirate was really into. Okay, so you have this whole convoluted setup in which she gets kidnapped by pirates for no reason except that she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, essentially.
Or right place, right time.
Depends on how you look at it. And also, there's the pirate captain. He is doing things behind the scenes this whole book. So he is like pulling the string. Listen, he is just Rand Morgan. What a guy. Anyway, she ends up on this pirate ship, and the one guy is really hot, and that's his main personality trait. And he thinks that she's the mistress of the British guy, and he hates her because of it. But she's also like, no, I'm not. But she can't say who she is because that would get her brother in trouble. So she's just kind of stuck on this pirate ship, and he is kind of trying to like threaten to torture and rape her, but he never actually rapes her, but he does make out with her forcefully. So there's a lot of things happening. At one point, she is given a pet squid in a bucket. That's a whole thing. All of the pirates on this ship kind of fall in love with her a little bit.
That's such a theme.
Yeah,
if you have a pirate book and a pirate ship full of smelly big men aren't falling in love with the heroine, what are you reading?
That's so true.
Yeah, it happens in all of them.
As it should, because it's not all of our fantasy.
But it's like, the best trope.
All of these pirates are so distinct in character and so funny, and I would die for that. And you have like the one that took her in the first place, that he is almost like maternal towards her, which is funny because he's like vicious and bloodthirsty and like really pretty scary. But then also the other pirates make jokes about how like, oh, is he like masticating her food for her yet? Like he just loves her. And then again, she almost gets raped sometimes, but then also sometimes she ends up on a deserted island watching a dead body get resurfaced and eaten by a crocodile. And sometimes she has malaria. And then we end up in England because people aren't who they always say they are.
Life lessons.
And weirdly, despite the fact that he threatens to either rape her or give her to the crew to rape.
That's also a theme.
He never does. Although he almost does, but he doesn't. And then they don't even have sex until they're married. And I was like, huh, good for them. What a choice that Laura London made. And it's very flowery and vague. And there are kittens involved afterward. Not during the act, but afterwards.
Okay, I was like,
no,
kinkier than I thought.
Afterwards. This is a bizarre book. It is 600 pages. And at no point in the entire book could I possibly have guessed where it was going next. But I did love it. I was confused. But I did love it.
And I love that for you.
Look, sometimes you just gotta get tortured.
So, which pirate does she end up with? Like, what?
The hot one.
Which one's her pirate?
The hot one who is the half-brother of the captain. It's the one that she had a moment with. You know. It was the moment. Had a moment with him.
Okay.
And then some other pirates kidnapped her, and then another the bloodthirsty one that becomes very maternal, finds her and knows that the hot one liked her. So he brought her back because he's the hot one's the half brother of the captain, who also has connections. Because again, he's like a puppet master. He's doing stuff behind the scenes the whole time.
rigging they weave.
The tangled rigging they weave. Which we'll get into rigging later on. Because
I saw that because I had the next one I'm going to talk about did not do that, and it hurt me.
That's tragic. They should do that. They should all do that.
Yeah,
that was the Windflower by Laura London. I liked the audiobook because everybody has very different accents. They're from all over.
Cool. I will be reading it. We will have an episode on it in probably season 3.
The lesson will have something to do with a squid in a bucket, or maybe when you bury a body on a stranded island, where you should bury that body so it doesn't get resurfaced and eaten by a crocodile in front of you.
Put that in your notes. I'm sure that will come up in all of our lives.
We need that information.
We don't.
When you're going to have to bury a dead pirate on an island.
No, but I do know that dead whales explode. So
there you
tangential, really. You know. The one that I was talking about is in the Bachelor Chronicle series by Elizabeth Boyle. It's Memoirs of a Scandalous Red Dress. Now, I'm only bringing this up because other people love it. I didn't. So it's number 5 in a series. So like you get this relationship started in book 1. There's a pirate and he like kidnaps her a little bit in between books 1 and 5 a little bit. It's interesting. You don't know what happened. You don't know if they've banged. You really don't know what's going on.
Classic.
So you are like raring to go when this book is up in the lineup. I was raring to go. And then it just did not hit like I wanted it to, but I've heard that it's other people's like favorite of the series. So read I wouldn't read this out of order. I would definitely read this one as book 5. It's the same series as my Love Letters from a Duke that I talk about frequently. So yeah. But basically he's just a pirate in the background until he's in the foreground. And
aren't we all?
Exactly.
Just pirates in the background until we're pirates in the foreground.
You know? Yeah.
Believe in yourself. It
really was.
Be a pirate in the foreground in your own life.
It's so true because really it had a major time jump that I just was not anticipating because it's like you have the first 4 books and then apparently it jumps like 20 years and she's been married, she's got kids, you don't know, like there's a lot of things going on. And then so they're like older when they meet again. He's like a drunkard because his life has gone to shit because he doesn't have her. And then he's got kids and it's tangled rigging all the way down. And then like there's a part where she's like in the rigging, like he's kind of got her tied up, and then they just don't make anything sexual of it. And I was like, what, pray tell, is the point of that? And at that point I lost all hope. I was like, how? You have it. You have the bone, you have the skull and crossbones of this formula. Let's put it to some work. So again, I enjoyed the building up to it rather than the climax, which I guess would be the book. But still, I think it was a good series. It kind of went downhill after that. It was, mixed bag. Mixed bag. Who knows what you like? It is what it is. But he was an American pirate, so what was his name? I don't know. Nothing cool like Captain Doom. So,
well, then what's even the point? Honestly,
I don't know.
My favorite part about this this Instagram post that I'm working on, it's Tuesday, so if it's not up right this second when you're listening, it'll be up within hours. But my favorite part of putting it together, besides just the sheer joy of putting it together, is listing the names and aliases of the pirates.
Oh, thank God.
Because truly, let's see. I wonder if I can find. I'll talk about this one in a minute. But Prince Lazar de Fiori, the Devil of Antigua, and he's also described and this is all in one section. The Devil of Antigua, the Cursed, the Damned, the Slayer of Innocence, Burner of Cities. And I think, if I remember correctly, he's the one who's saying it, so he's saying it. No, I think it's actually in the narration. It's not even. It's like all of the, it's like vaguely anti-Islamic also. They're like Middle Eastern characters that aren't great. Unfortunate. But they're like, even those pirates are afraid of him. I love the Devil of Antigua, the Cursed, the Damned, Slayer of Innocence, Burner of Cities.
Wow.
What an iconic, like, what are you doing if that's not your tagline as a pirate?
Yeah. I do enjoy the aliases and the different names, because I know the Elizabeth Hoyt one has a fun. His alias is
Desires?
Yeah.
I thought he was just Charming Mickey.
Oh no. He has a different persona that's arguably, in my mind, better than Charming Mickey.
The domesticated one?
Yeah.
Mr. Rivers?
Yeah, what is it? It is Michael Rivers. I want to smash him. He was hot. I wasn't a huge fan.
Not the pirate, just the, like, homebody.
Bro, it worked. It did a weird thing to me. I don't quite know. That book was a roller coaster. Not my favorite. But Michael Rivers can get it.
Well, let's talk about it while we're on talking about it, because that's on my list as well. Scandalous.
So did you read it?
Oh yeah.
Did you read the one before it?
No, I read the first book in the series a long time ago. Then I skipped the second book so as to read.
It wasn't
Scandalous
great.
Desires. That's fine.
The second book was not great.
I felt like, unless something really drastic happened in book 2 that could not be explained, and I don't think that it did, because in book 1 you get the big thing in their past.
You definitely need book 1 because it goes into like Duke of Sin, like that book it's bigger than itself.
Going on there. Yeah. But specifically in this case, you get their entire meeting. Book 2, I don't know if it even comes up in the text. I assume that's when he like abandons the baby.
Yeah. It's like a little bit in there.
But that's kind of what I figured, so I just skipped it.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you don't know what's going on, Maiden Lane is a many-book series. Isn't it like 12 books?
Yeah, it's like 12 or 13 plus some novellas.
It's Georgian. It's like the darkest part of London. There's the
scourge of the seas and of London.
The Ghost of St. Giles is out.
Scourge of Maiden Lane, Hannah. Scourge of Maiden Lane. Goddamn. It was right there. I failed you. Failed me. Failed Pirate Mickey.
So in book 1, you get some other characters, like side stories going on. And in book 1, so the heroine of Scandalous Desires is Silence, who is the heroine of book 1's sister. And Silence is married
to a guy who's bad at sex.
And that's
when
how
that happens,
that's how you
ain't gonna live.
She's married to him, and he is like a sailor or a captain or something.
He owns some ships, I think, and then he got looted or something. And
his ship gets looted. They know that it's Charming Mickey O'Connor, the river pirate, the Pirate King, I believe, as he is called.
The Pirate King of Chicago. Not to be confused with the Sausage King of Chicago, guys.
No, very different.
Pirate King.
So Silence is like, I got this, guys. I'm going to go handle this, as you do. So she pulls up at Charming Mickey O'Connor's domain. I will never forget this scene because it's like a broken down abandoned warehouse on the outside, but when you go in, it's like the walls are made of gold and studded with jewels. It's a magnificent palace. You walk into the throne room and there he is, lounging insouciantly on a throne as he does. He's got like long dark hair and leather pants. Velvet pants, my apologies, and over the knee thigh-high leather boots.
And I'm picturing like a lot of like kohl around his eyes, like he's just giving it all.
You have to assume, I don't remember if this was mentioned, but you have to assume his shirt is unbuttoned down to the middle of his stomach.
Big and billowy and white,
Yes. Anyway, she's like, please give my husband his stuff back, because he will get in big trouble. And he's like, I will do that if you agree to spend the night with me. And she eventually gives in, and he just like takes her to his room and feeds her dinner, and then she just stays there all night, and he like does work. That's it. Like nothing else happens. And then in the morning he makes her unlace her bodice and take down her hair and walk down the street like that. And so it ruins her reputation. It ruins her marriage. Then her husband goes to sea and dies, which you knew was going to happen because he was bad at sex.
He wouldn't go down on her. He wouldn't go down on her, guys.
So he went down with his ship.
Yeah. So whoa, the poetic justice of that. Whoa. Elizabeth Hoyt, I see what you were doing. I see you, queen.
And then also sometime in the meantime, a baby gets abandoned. The Silence's family runs like an orphanage essentially, and a baby gets abandoned there, and she imprints on it, I guess, and takes this little girl in and basically becomes her pseudo mother of this little toddler.
Well, because the baby's left on her doorstep.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, so she has this baby now, and then at the beginning of this book, you find out she's hanging out, or she has showed up at Charming Mickey's place again because her baby got kidnapped, and it turns out not only did he take the baby, he took the baby because it's his baby, and he had left it there with her, but now his enemies are after him, and he wants her to come live in his palace with said baby. And that's all in the previous book and the first few pages of this one.
Yeah, it was definitely a different book than I expected. Like,
I was vibing the whole way through.
The ends fell apart a little bit for me. I'm just going based off my review. I really don't remember it. Nothing will be as memorable as book 4. Oh my god.
Well, I haven't read book 4 yet. So
you need
we're not there yet.
Look,
I live for the Beauty and the Beast of it all. The literal, like, you won't eat unless you eat with me. He says, knowing full well his servants are sneaking her food the whole time.
The drama. My favorite part and the most fucked up part of the book is that, well, like, throughout the whole book, everyone else believes that she was, like, ravished by this pirate. And no one in her family believes that she wasn't. I mean, that's honestly the scariest thing, is to like know that you're telling the truth and then no one else to believe you.
Well,
like,
you know that had to happen because her name is Silence.
Yeah. Oh my god, Elizabeth. She just gets it.
Okay,
guys.
Come on now. That was very clear and intentional. Name is destiny.
That is true. That is true. But then it happens again at the end, and then he does believe her, and it was cute. But yeah, Michael Rivers. He did it for me. The Irish accent that what's her name, who narrates, Ashford McNabb does for Mickey, was not it for me. It just didn't work. It wasn't deep enough. I didn't vibe with it.
I have that problem with Irish accents a lot. They tend to be higher pitched.
Yeah, I've heard some good ones, but This in My Day was not one of them. So that kind of, I think, hampered some of my enjoyment. But he had a different accent when he was Michael Rivers, and it did things to me. So do with that what you will. Yeah, and he had like spectacles. He was hot.
Well, he was also deeply traumatized, and one thing about me is I love a traumatized fictional man. Especially one who is like, I don't care about this baby. And then
the baby, that was
deeply
cute. She has like curly
cares
hair.
about said baby. She's so cute. And he is so cute. And so traumatized.
Yeah, apparently there was a villain throwing acid. I don't know.
Oh, full on.
Happened.
Did he throw vitriol?
Oh yeah, fuck!
Face?
I forgot about
Yeah, it was violent.
Oh no,
it was dark.
Shit was crazy.
It sure was, but it was Elizabeth Hoyt, so I knew
it's all
that
coming
it was.
Back to me now.
It's all coming back
to me.
Yeah, no, I knew that was. I mean, I didn't know that specifically was coming, but I knew something messed up was coming. He almost gets like hanged. They have a wedding night in prison.
Yeah, he was in jail for a month.
He does get hanged. He falls and is in the news.
Then the ghost of St. Giles.
Of course.
Love you, ghost.
So, this one, not swashbuckling. They're not on a boat at any point.
No.
So if you want that element of pirate romance, this is not where
Andy
we go.
Samberg would be
but
sad.
If you want just like a villainous anti-hero who does pirate type things, here's a river pirate for you.
Here's a river pirate.
There you go.
Yeah, he was less villainous.
Well, of course.
I guess as I thought. He was like, he didn't let it play on as long as I thought he was going to. Which was good, I thought. Like it was like it played out in a different way than I expected that entire book to do, like based on what we had seen. So I thought that kept it interesting. And it was just like that is the one though, the audiobook that had the weird editing where it edits out a sex scene and then like she's like teasing him and then they're like asleep and then he's like inside her. And then, like, he's, like, reading, he has a dream, and it's, like, all out of order in the audiobook, so I don't quite know what happened there, but it really confused me. I was like, Elizabeth Hoyt, closed door, who are we? And then I got it, like, randomly out of context, like, 2 minutes later, so who knows, but just if you listen to that one via audio, just know that happens.
Yeah.
It really confused me, so. Yeah, Indeed. What was the next one that I think we were talking about a different one.
I mean, I've read 2 Beverly Jenkins.
Yeah.
Both of which I gave the same rating, but one which I would recommend over the other. So Destiny's Captive.
God, I love that cover.
Gorgeous cover, great premise. Didn't love the execution. Here's the thing. I mean, actually, let me say, I had a great time. It's Beverly Jenkins. So I had a great time. However, the book is called Destiny's Captive, and the premise of this book is that the heroine is a pirate who steals our hero's ship. He like wakes up, he's abducted, and he wakes up tied to his own bed in his ship.
Yay.
And she steals the ship, and then he has to try to like track her down. Like he vows to track her down and get his ship back. The abduction, all of that lasts like a couple of pages. And then she sails away with his ship. And there's a large chunk at the beginning of this book where they're separated because she sailed away with his ship and he doesn't know who she is and she was masked.
Oh, so he's not on the ship? Or is he still on the ship tied to his bed?
But they got rid of him.
Oh. Sad.
They put him in a rowboat and said, bye, see yourself back to shore. We're going to take your boat now. So and he's like, I'm going to find you. Here is what I do respect. And then I'll go back to the thing I didn't like. I respect that he spends a lot of time tracking this pirate down. He's like, I hate her so much. I want to kill her. I'm not going to. I'm going to turn her over to the law and be a good boy. But like, I hate her so much. This stupid pirate. I'm going to find her. And blah, 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 blah. Then he does find her at a party. He like goes through all that. He gets her name. He finds her. He reveals that he knows who she is. She makes a run for it. He chases her down. She grabs a rapier off the wall. He grabs the other rapier. They have a little sword fight. They finish the sword fight, and he's like, I am going to marry you. Because in the midst of that one sword fight, he was like, you know what? He has a really deeply troubling past. The prologue is like a horrific, here are the worst years of it. Like, he was deeply traumatized and came back a changed man from those experiences. He's like, I've never felt anything like this, so I will be marrying you. And she's like, I don't want to, but then he does because she has to. And I respect that. However, Pilar is a Cuban rebel and pirate. Like, she's working with this underground rebellion to fight the Spanish government. She has a lot of feelings and does a lot of things. And she doesn't plan on getting married. And then she doesn't really have a choice because the government's after her. So she marries this guy and moves with him to California. And she's like, but how can I still help my people? Like, maybe I can still help, like, raise money and do things for... and then she doesn't. She just kind of settles into being his wife, which is fine.
Yeah.
But, like, what happened to the whole I want to keep fighting for Cuba thing?
I see.
It just kind of disappears over the course of the rest of the book. And I just wasn't expecting that from Beverly Jenkins. Because, like... What do you mean? So, like, a good time?
But a confusing time.
But a confusing time. Like, at the cost of the Cuban rebellion.
That's a cost.
Also, there's another one on my list that kind of does this too, but, like, for a man that experienced deeply traumatic events, he just, like, goes back to where they happened to him and is like, I've healed myself. And I'm like, I don't know that that's... it happens in one of the later books too, but to a lesser extent. So later, one of the other pirate romances I'm going to talk about. But this one I was like, what do you mean he's just magically fine now? Because he was, like, tortured and raped and, like, left to fend for himself on a prison island. Like, you don't just...
Yeah. Love doesn't necessarily conquer all, guys.
What do you mean? So, anyway, there's that. The other Beverly Jenkins is Captured. I liked that one a lot better. It still wasn't one of my favorite Beverly Jenkins, but, like, if you're like, I want to read a pirate romance that isn't about a white person, this one, she's enslaved, and he's a notorious privateer, and he steals her. Kidnaps her.
Good.
I don't even remember the rest of that book, honestly. He, like, takes her back to his island. Oh, I think he, like, has some family drama. People get poisoned and killed. They gotta go get her kids back. It's a whole thing. I feel like I'm not selling this book, but you know what? It was a wild time. And boy, did the villains all die.
Oh, Beverly, I love you for that. I really do.
Like, I have a very clear memory of putting in the Fable Fable book club being like, this person, like, sometimes violence is the answer. I think that she needs to die. And then within that chapter, she'd been, like, run over by a carriage.
I had that in one of my other Beverly Jenkins books. I remember making, like, an update on Goodreads being like, when is this, when? And then literally right after, it's like, oh, right now. And I was like, oh, okay.
It tends to, right when you're like, okay, this person needs to have a violent encounter. They do.
It does. It just happens. Because it looks like she pushes it right to that limit, and then she gives you a little bit of grace and is like, I'm going to strangle them, or I'm just going to, like, toss them out of care. Like, she knows when to, like, test your limits and stuff. That is a thing that I've experienced with Beverly Jenkins.
So true. So, if you're looking for Beverly, she's got Captured, she's got Destiny's Captive.
And she's up to her titties and alligators, guys, and pirates.
To her titties and alligators and pirates.
Well, the next one, I didn't really realize it was pirate adjacent. Well, I mean, I should have. I remember it being talked about because it's How to Tame a Wild Rogue by Julianne Long. And he has an earring on the cover, and that was a big thing because the cover is really good. Again, I have not met a Julianne Long book that I have liked or loved, I guess. Like, they're all fine, but they just are always missing something for me, and I don't really know how to deal with it. Or, like, I don't know what would make it better, but I also know that I wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know. This is the same. This series that she's in, this was, like, book 6, and it's at this hotel, like, Palace of Rogues thing. And the first 2 books in the series, which I haven't read, they're the 2, like, founding ladies, I think, of this, like, hotel. And the rest of the series, it all takes place there. They all kind of, like, end up there, and then the romances, like, happen. But so much of the series is just about the other couples rather than, like, the main couple, which this book also fell victim to. Like, you read a lot more about everyone else in that hotel than the main 2.
which was just my biggest gripe with it because I just wanted more of them because I felt like their relationship was like very fast and just very. I mean, her books are, I would say, pretty like low angst, like very just vibey, but she is basically unanimously loved by everyone else. So like this is, I guess, a me thing. So knowing that, read this book, I guess, because everyone else has loved it. So that's I guess my weird endorsement. But he was like a pirate kind of. One of the other like husbands there had like gone head to head with the hero of this one on the high seas at some point, and then he got away. And it's kind of like is he a pirate? Is he a privateer? He's really just a privateer, but he has a piratical state of mind, you know. Pirate is a state of mind, and he had it, I guess. So that kind of falls into that category of pirate romance. He's swashbuckling, but not thieving from the crown, I guess. You know, I think if you love Julianne Long, read this book. I think you will love it. It felt very in line with everything else that I've read of her. So, yeah. And I think most people do like her. So that could be a good one for you. Definitely very like Tame on the pirate spectrum. The relationship was cute. Like they were just a cute couple. I wanted more of them, but like they were good. It was like they had to pretend to be engaged or married because the two owners of the hotel thing are like pretty traditional, and so like they had to like pretend. She was like a miss of like the ton, so like everyone knew who she was, and so they were like, weren't you engaged? She's like, yeah, but he's now my husband. So I think it was husband. So it was a little bit of like faking it, but yeah, not much for me, but maybe for you. I don't know. But that one I kind of like stumbled upon before I realized I should be reading more pirate romances for this episode. So that one, it was just kind of an extra. Thank God I read it because I can count it. But
let's see. Wow. We have one that we've both read, which is also like a former pirate situation.
Oh, do I have a quote for you?
Oh, I know what it is.
Well, this one is, I never claimed to be a successful pirate, just a persistent one.
Okay, I didn't know that was the one you were going to go for. I thought you were going for the it's gentleman pirate.
That is.
And retired. Not that it matters. Which is just actually probably the funniest thing anyone said in that book. For some reason, that is it sent me into oblivion.
It's book,
Gentleman Pirate.
If you don't know, we're talking about Gentle Rogue.
Gentle Rogue.
Gentle Rogue. He was gentle and a rogue.
He was surprisingly gentle. I just assumed 1990. I think like it must be a bodice ripper. Well, I thought it was a pirate ripper a pirate ripper. There we go.
Pirate Ripper.
If Jack the Ripper were only attacking pirates.
Oh my God.
I assumed it was a pirate.
Or if Jack the Ripper was a pirate.
Ooh.
But he was actually like he's only killing bad people, not prostitutes and women.
Yeah.
And was actually maybe an anti-hero rather than just a villain who needed to be dealt with viciously. This book was always so like it was like on a pedestal, I guess. I don't know, like when we asked for recommendations for our old school books, was the like Gentle Rogue wasn't recommended, I don't think, as like a foundational
I don't remember getting this
romance for people. I don't really see it talked about. A lot of people that I know and like their opinions that I follow didn't like it. They haven't read it recently, so it's like a while ago. Someone like 3 months ago gave it like 1 star on Goodreads. I'm like, what does this book do to you? So like I had just never really heard much about it. I just assumed like you did that it'd be like a bodice ripper, and I don't know, like it was so different than anything I was expecting. And you were right when you said I don't know if I cut it out or if it was still in the episode. You said the audiobook narrator wasn't great, which I do agree with, and then it got better as you kept listening.
Yeah, once you kind of got used to it.
It got better. And I think she like
liked
changed
her voice for everybody except for him. So
she she made Anthony sound a lot hotter than him.
And it might have been maybe she narrated his book also.
I bet
she had committed to that.
Yeah,
she had to distinguish,
which is Tender Rebel, I believe. I will be reading, and also the first one.
I do think besides the fact that I didn't love her voice for him,
Mhm.
I think she added a lot of humor
It was I
to
agree.
her delivery.
Yeah, I
Especially
wasn't
with
gonna
all
do
the brothers.
like, if you want an ensemble cast of just a lot of brother antics on both sides, they both had a large
Yeah.
family of brothers.
I
It was
thought her
really
brothers were so funny.
And I love the
time with
camaraderie of big families in books, so that really hit the spot.
I have a hard time with some siblings in books because I also have quite a few siblings and in-laws, and I feel like it's really hard to nail like a believable relationship to me because sometimes they go super like more in contemporary, but anytime I hear somebody call their sister like sis
yeah,
or bro, I'm like
sissy.
See, it's far more believable to me these guys who like beat each other up, but also do love each other, but also
their favorite enemies are themselves.
Yeah, like will physically fight. I was like, if I had 3 additional brothers to the 2 that I already have, this makes sense. This is accurate. They were so funny.
It was, and then the fact that he had brothers too, like. Honestly, I maybe need like a spreadsheet of who's who because there were a lot of names being thrown about, and I was like,
by the end I had figured out.
All the notable ones that like I need to know, and like how the family's all stitched together, and then like reading the summaries for some of the other books, I was like, okay, but yeah, as I was going along, the audiobook got better, and again, I was gonna do it physically, but I just didn't have the time. Like, simply, I wouldn't have read it if I wouldn't have done the audiobook. Yeah, it just because it starts like she's going to find the guy she thinks she's been betrothed to for like 6 years. Turns out he has a wife and a kid and was not thinking about her. And then she hates England. She's like, I need to get out of here. I don't want to take any of these English ships. Like, that's just too close to home. And then they didn't. But then
also
they've
been
America,
robbed, so they have no money. Oh, and none of her older brothers know that she's there.
That's also, and she's with a guy.
Yeah, he's like an older family friend.
Yeah,
like essentially an uncle.
He's a different accent.
He's Scottish.
So then she has to like pretend to be his brother at some point, and they're like, "What?" She's like, "Don't worry."
Well, and also on top of all of this, her whole family is like a shipping family. So
yeah,
like she's very comfortable on ships.
And they have like I will say the first hour of the book to 2 hours was a little bit slow.
Yeah.
I was also like at like doing grocery shopping.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like
they haven't met yet. You don't really know where this is going.
And I think if you wouldn't have told me what to expect, and even the summary it gave probably a pretty good, I think, explanation like to what the book is. Like they had that pretty good. I don't know if I would have like been as willing to like see it through if I wouldn't have known what you had said. But like since I knew, like I was able to, I guess, I don't know, like start seeing that. I don't know. I think like if I would have went into it without any context, I would have been very confused and kind of like, do I want to like keep reading? Like what's happening?
See, I didn't have that because it was funny enough. Like, it's not at the beginning. I don't think it's necessarily laugh out loud funny, but it's like very wry narration, like humorous narration, and that intrigued me. And then it just takes a while for her to. They have to meet initially.
Yeah,
with her dressed as a boy. Like, so you have to get that out of the way. You have to set up who he is. You have to allude to his former piracy and figure out his relationship with his brother, because also the brother, you've read his book, presumably. We have not, but
presumably you're good sailors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you would know what was going on there. And also if we had read the earlier books, we would probably have met him and so be more like interested in what was going on with him.
I definitely plan to go back and read those and then reread this one.
Yeah.
And then figure that out.
Anyway, essentially she has to pretend to be a cabin boy in order to to get passage on this ship back to Jamaica, I want to say, because that's where
they're going to Jamaica, and then
she would find her brother's ship to get home.
Yeah, because it was like a 6-month like trip to America with like without that.
Yeah,
And then she also didn't want to like deal with the British, but then she ended up dealing with this British guy.
Well, she didn't know.
She did not know.
So she pulls up dressed as a boy, and apparently she's a believable 12-year-old boy, which is relatable. And he knows that it's her. Not only does he know that it's a girl, he knows that it's this girl that he's met before. But he pretends that he doesn't.
Because they knew the friend was literally with her. They were like, well, he's miraculously now has a brother with an American accent,
like
who looks like a tiny woman boy child. But they just assume
this is a good bit. I'm just gonna pretend I don't know who this is.
And it was so
But
funny
instead of going the way I thought it was gonna go, because having read Prisoner of My Desire, I was like, oh, this is gonna get real, like, icky real fast. Because I think it could be really icky with that, like, he knows she's a woman and he knows that he's attracted to her, and he's on, like, a ship full of men. So, like, all very but instead, he's, like, very protective. And he's doing his best to, like, give her privacy.
Yeah, like, there was one point when she, like, hadn't bathed because, like, she was too scared to, like, take off her binding and everything. And at one point, he's like, bro, you stink. He's like, I'm requiring you as your captain to take a bath. And she's like, and he's like, you have to, I will, like, leave. Like, you have to do that. Same thing with the bathroom. Like, same thing with going to the bathroom.
Here is a sign you can put on the door.
Because he walked in on her going to the bathroom.
It's rough out here.
Yeah, like, he, like, walked in on her going to the bathroom, and she was mortified. And he's like, what do I do? Like, I know that she's a woman, but she doesn't know that I know that she's a woman. Like, I don't, like, I want to make her feel comfortable. So he's like, I get it. We're all a little bit gun shy. Just put a door, like, put a sign on the door. I'll respect it. Yeah.
But meanwhile, he's, like, making her sleep in the cabin, and you think it's for nefarious reasons, but it's actually just because he doesn't
keep her safe.
Trust anybody else.
Well, apparently, like, even just, like, regular cabin boys are also not safe. Like, it's a genuine practice, apparently, of, like, having them sleep in the captain's quarters.
They said it depends. It can be if they think it's a concern. They can have them sleep in there, but a lot of times they don't. But he's using it as an excuse because she doesn't know the cabin boys do. So he's like, you have to, in case I can't sleep and I need someone to read to me.
It was
and then
very
the nonsense of like, aha, we're making out. No, I just figured out that you're a woman.
Which was so funny because, like, previously he's like, well, I can't show her my erection. I can't let her see because then she would think I'm attracted to a 12-year-old boy, which that's just simply not the case. Like, I know that she's a woman. She doesn't know that I know. So, like, that would get into a lot of explanations that I don't want to have to make. And then he says, fuck it. And he just kisses her when she's in the disguise. And then he's like, oh, I knew. That. But then he doesn't, like, but then I didn't realize that she didn't know that he knew the entire time. So, like, she thought that he only found out a little while ago. Yeah. And then, but he knew the entire time. So then that was a thing later on.
It was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing. It was a good chunk of the book.
For all of this is that she keeps being like, I am nauseous, but only around you.
That was the whole, literally.
And he's like, what do you mean nauseous? And she's like, well, not like, well, actually at the beginning she does throw up, but that's a whole other thing. And she's like, no, not like I have to throw up, but just like,
I get hot and sweaty and like my blood rushes.
I have
and
some
like
weird feelings.
Yeah, like, and then he's like, oh, because then at that point he's like, oh, so she's attracted to me. Because he was like feeling a little bit bad about like being attracted to her. And then he's like, oh, so she's turned on too. Now I'm going to make out with her. And then she's like, are you making love with me? Like, I need to know for my conscience. Like, I need to know. And then he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, proceed. She said, you have my permission to proceed, Captain. And then they fully bang. And it was great. Well, and she was just funny because then she's like, my conscience like told me like, it's just
he penetrates her. And she's like, oh, I've never done this before, by the way. And he's like, yeah, I just figured that out. Yeah. But it's...
Because
it's just so nonsensical. And that's only like the first half of the book.
I was going to say the first half, because then, like you said, the brothers kidnap her back. Like she
she ends up just like, she finds her brother.
Yeah.
And
then they end up sailing away.
Yeah.
And he thinks that she's leaving willfully. She doesn't know that they're leaving on the boat. So then she ends up with their brothers.
He wanted her to be his mistress.
That too. There are a lot of things.
There's just and then he just shows up at her house.
Which is great. The last third was my favorite part. And I loved the middle of the book. But like the last third of him just like having to deal with her brothers and like his brother, like it was
so much nonsense.
I just, And then he was like, I forced your family to force me to marry you. Like,
yeah, I love a man who
at
can't
that point,
cope with his own feelings.
I know. But he's like, everyone knows that I don't want to get married, so, like, I can't, like, let my reputation, like, be tarnished and think that I actually proposed to you. So I just need to, make them force me because they also someone else forced, like,
he's
my
like,
niece's
obviously,
husband.
the response is to go ruin your reputation.
Yeah.
Tell your brothers that we fucked. Wait for them to 5-on-1 brutalize me. Forcibly marry us and then lock me in a cellar because I admitted to being a pirate in the past and they were gonna turn me over to the law.
Yeah. And then he already basically loved her, but she had never said it. So then he was waiting for her to say it, so he couldn't admit his emotions because he was like, I'm just kind of feeling like a little like that I'm just giving too much here. And then the scene where you were talking about where he's like fighting and then she's having a heart-to-heart with her brother saying that she loves him, then he like shows up, he's like, oh, so you love me, that's great news. Because like I was getting annoyed at him, I was like, you're still like opposed to this marriage because she's pregnant, guys, forgot about that, she's fully pregnant. She tells him he doesn't have much of like a they're already married at this point, he doesn't have much to say about it. And then because I was like, bro, like what are we doing? And then I realized that he was like pretending to be angry that he was married, and then I was like, oh,
just the sheer amount of like shenanigans. They also like she sails off with her brother and then they break him out of the cellar only for him to kind of kidnap her and like tie up her brothers, and then her brothers kidnap her.
It's a lot of kidnapping.
It's just
and then at
so
one point
silly.
At the end he was like, I love the breath out of her, and she's like, they're like, what kind of saying is that? He's like, well, you were like breathless just like moments ago, or like panting or something, and it was funny. I was like, bro. And he like tries to strangle one of her brothers. It was just anticing. It was good. Antic roadshow. Boat show?
I was about to say
Waterway. Yeah. So honestly, it was not what I expected, but it was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm happy to have read it.
Yeah. What a banger.
What a banger and some mash. You go, because I feel like you have a few more than I do. I only have 2 more. And then I guess a half of one that I've read.
Okay, yeah, I've got 3. So let's do I'll get more serious as we go. I'll increase the seriousness with the next 3. So we'll start Any Duke in a Storm by Amalie Howard, which comes out in January, I believe. Amalie Howard, the woman that you are. So we've met this heroine. Actually, yeah, I don't think we met the hero. We met the heroine in at least the last book, if not earlier.
I think it was just the last book.
Earlier. Yeah. So we know her. She was like formerly married to the hero, but it's because they were both spies, so it was just like a marriage.
They were a little bit of a fuck buddy situation.
Yeah, but it wasn't like bad divorce or anything.
We like her. In that book.
Yeah. So she is an English countess because she got to keep her title after the divorce, who is a spy for the American government, not against the British, but she works for the Americans. And her current mission, she has been undercover for a while now as Bonnie Bess, the notorious and terrifying pirate, who has a largely female, but it is mixed crew on her ship. And she is trying to get into this deeply secretive smuggling ring, which is led by Charles Dubois, the Captain Prince or something, Prince Smuggler. He's like the prince, whatever.
Nice.
And there's another guy also. The other guy happens to be the hero, who is his nephew.
Gotcha.
What is this man's name? Why am I blanking? Raphael Saint, who is a disgraced French duke, and he has this whole backstory with like his father was like given this French dukedom, but then someone mysteriously implied that he was being treasonous, and so he was put in a mental institution and beaten to death, and also, like, they got to keep the title but not the land or something like that. Like, he technically still has the title, but it's very it's not good. He's like a disgraced duke, and he knows that it was his uncle that did this. He doesn't have any proof, but he knows that it was him. So he wants to get vengeance on the uncle. And there's this whole smuggling ring situation, and he's like a pirate, but also he has legitimate businesses as well. So we open the book. He's in jail. Well, not in actual jail. He's been imprisoned by bad guys. And he breaks out because he knows his uncle's on the way to kill him. So he breaks out. He goes to the docks. He goes to get on this ship, and it turns out they're looking for a new sailing master. And he's like, yeah, that's me. I am the sailing master, which is fair enough. He is a captain, so he can do it. Meanwhile, Bonnie Bess over here is setting up some explosives to try to take out some smugglers' ships. And also some other, like, she's been found out by this little kid who found these, like, official papers. She's got to get out of here. She, like, sprints down the dock and, like, leaps dramatically onto her ship as it's sailing away. Ships are exploding in the distance. She comes face to face with this tall, hot man. She's like, who is this? You are not supposed to be here. Get off my ship. And he's like, I'm the sailing master. And thus begins a swashbuckling adventure in which both of them are lying, kind of, more her than him because she's undercover and doesn't know if she can trust him. And he doesn't know why she's trying to get into this smuggling ring. And they are fighting people and blowing things up on several occasions. And, like, really violently taking people out. At one point, she stabs a guy in the balls.
Hell yeah.
They're, like, turned on by how violent the other is. Like, it's just, there's so much happening. There's, like, a whole praise kink situation. Also, he is, he's born French, but his family's from, like, the West Indies? Caribbean, maybe. I can't remember. The point is he's not white, and that also plays a factor. There's so much violence, and also
there's a child.
Quite a few good girls. There's a child who spews absolute piratical nonsense, such as, hold please while I find the picture. Nope, I lost it. Oh,
you lost it. I lost my eye patch. Hey, that's a pirate quote.
This isn't him. I mean, this isn't the child. This is him. Duck fucker.
Duck fucker?
Duck fucker. When I see that pigeon-livered sack of pricks, I'm gonna flatten him for that. I just like that line so much. Son of a... This is the child. Son of a biscuit eater. Land ho, you scurvy-ridden pickaroons. Get your daddles working before I make you walk the plank at the tip of me sword. And what more do you want, honestly?
Not much, besides getting Amalie on this podcast to talk about her writing process.
That's
and how
so
she
true.
researched the piratical terms. So,
ahoy there, wench. Show me your sodding treasure or face my bloodthirsty blade.
Reading historical romance has really had me calling a lot of people wenches. And, like, most people don't think that's a favorable term, but we've learned in our old school journey, wench is a non-derogatory term. It is a term of affection. I mean, it is derogatory, but, like, in an affectionate way. And so, like, I'll, like, call my mom wench. She's like, what the hell? I'm like, I'm so sorry, but, like, I love you. But, like,
wench is the historical bitch.
Yeah, like, I just love it so much. It's like, bring me water, wench. It's just, I don't know. It's gotten me into some hot water, but I'll remain to say it because it's just fun. So, that's my little aside.
Well, there you go.
There we go.
Yes.
I'm so excited for that book. So excited. Okay. Well, guys. I read Lady Pirate by Lindsey Sands.
What a title.
What a title. What a cover. I have this cover. Like, look at that. Like, she's truly is like, it's a really good like vintage. And I picked it up because I was like, what in the world's going on? So basically, it opens up with a pirate ship ravaged by other pirates, and the pirate just died covered in blood. And there's a lot of murder. A lot of bad things happened on that boat. Like half their crew was like off waiting for them to come back, and then they were trying to like bring their cargo in somewhere, and then it got ravaged by pirates, and then they killed everyone, tortured everyone. It was real bad news.
Oh dear.
And her brother was the captain, the lady pirate. So Valerie is her name. Pirating is her game. So she gets on board and realizes that her brother is dying. He gives her the pirate ring or whatever, and then he dies. So she's been pretending, I forgot. She's been pretending to be a cabin boy,
of course,
for like the entire time. So no one knew that she was a girl. Things happened. She, takes off her disguise. She's the captain now. And that was like a time prior to when the book actually starts. So this is like the prologue, basically. Okay. And then she's been on the open seas for a good amount of years. In this one, I learned about like the whole privateering fine line between being a pirate and all of that. They didn't have a contact to give like their percentage. Like they lost their contact when her brother died. So they've been like stashing away like the 40% that they needed to give to the queen. Like, so technically they're pirates because they haven't given her the commission yet.
Right.
So like everyone thinks, so she's like a pirate unintentionally. Like they're trying to be good. Anything that they steal, they're saving it. Like they're not letting taxes get them down. Like no student loan bomb for them.
They said the IRS will not be
literally. They had receipts. So like they have the 40%. I think it was 40% in this book because in another one it was 20%. So they've been stashing that away, and she somehow inherited a title. There was she's now an heiress or something. It was a whole convoluted things happening. And so basically she has to go into English society using all of like her crew as her like her butler, like all of like the servants. Like they hire a prostitute to be her aunt because she needs to like have an entrance to society. It's very kooky. It's a very kooky book. It doesn't take itself seriously a lot. It's very good. So a lot of it is her having just a humorous screwball time trying to launch herself into society. Because wow, everything is coming back to me. I say it a lot, but it's so true. The terms of the inheritance is that she has to be married to someone with a title and pregnant and or given birth to an heir within 9 months. And the funny part of that is that there's now another guy. I believe he is an earl because I think she like is the heir to a marquisate, I think, through romance novel ways. And so he is learning at the same time that she's learning that he has to be married to someone. His wife has to be pregnant or have birth and heir within 9 months because the two separate people who like made their wills were doing it the same solicitor at the same day, and they like got the idea from each other and they thought it was really fun. So basically, literally, because they're
making your will and you're like, tee, it'd be a really good bit.
Literally went tee all the way home. And so the solicitor has to tell these two people, they're at the office at the same time.
Historical romance.
I know. And so like they're both having to come to terms with that. So she's like, why don't I like go into society? I have to find someone. He is like, so you're telling me that there's someone in my same position that I also met in the lobby of this place. He's interested about that. They meet at the ball, like officially. He is taken right away. Like it's insta love on his part. He falls first. And he's just very confused as to why she's not wanting to marry him. She's like, we're too similar. Like, you're very attractive. Like, I want to bang you, but also like we would not suit because we're the same person. And he's taking great offense to that because he's like, I just want to marry you and get you pregnant. And so she like goes through all these like bad suitors and like all that. It's like very comical. he's still like, why can't we? Like, this is like the perfect position. Like, literally, like, you need me, I need you, like, baby. Gets to a point. I can't even like summarize how we got to that point. Anywho, she now wants to marry him. And so they're on the pirate ship. And she literally, like, they have to get him so drunk because he's not gonna marry her, but they get him super wasted. They get the, like, person who's gonna, like, officiate the wedding, like, onto the ship. He's like, I don't think I can marry you two. Like, this guy seems pretty out of it. And then he's just like, she's so pretty. Like, all, like, they end up getting married. He has no recollection. Then they strand them on a deserted island so that she can ravish him, so that the marriage is consummated. He's tied to, like, 2 trees, like, laying down, but he's, like, with it. Like, he, like, knows what's happening. And, like, is it the best? Maybe not. Great scene? A+. Because he's like, untie me. Like, I can make this better. She's like, no, like, I'm gonna take you so that this marriage can't be annulled. And so she literally just, like, rides him when he's tied to, like, 2 trees and a coconut. And, like, he's having a good time. She's having a good time. Then she unties him, and then he ties her up, and they do it all over again. And that's only, like, 60% of the book. So then there's still, like, more book happening. And then there's, like, another villain that you don't know about because there are murder attempts throughout it. It's just very crazy because he was another plot bunny. He literally was charged with taking down the pirate. So that's why. Because then she thinks he's gonna, like, he's a spy and he's trying to, like, take her and her sailors to prison because they haven't paid the taxes. And so he's not trying to do that. That was just his past life. Like, he just wants to marry her. She doesn't know that. She jumps to some conclusions. It all works out eventually. But yeah, that island scene was cray cray. It's a crazy book. Lindsey Sands, again, she's a pirate in and of itself, like, herself. Like, yeah. And there's so much that I left out. And it was just so funny. Like, the comedy of, like, hiring a prostitute to be your aunt, to, like, be your chaperone, but then is she a prostitute? There's a lot of different levels to that. So
I wish you guys could see my face.
Yeah, it's buffering. Like, her face is the emoji equivalent of buffering.
There's just so much happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing.
It was so good, though.
Well, I love that.
So good. It was just like,
that I just did not. Absolutely nonsensical.
Like, it gave me, like, it's like what I would have wanted the Prisoner of Desire, like, the first scene to be. I don't know. It was just, like, nothing else compares to that book. But, like, they're not similar at all. But just the way that she, like, had to, like, have sex with him to consummate the marriage, and he didn't know they were married, and then he was like, wait, we're married? And he's like, I didn't get married. And then he's like, what? But then he was, like, participating, and, like, he was okay with it. She was like, gonna do it, and he's like, yeah. It was a whole thing. But give it a listen if you're in for a saucy time. Up for a saucy time. And he was just good. Like, it was just so fun. I don't know. It was weird, but good. Oh, yeah, because then there's a whole pirate battle with the guy who, like, the pirate who killed her brother.
Oh, sure. I forgot about that whole thing.
And that's, like, before the other villain that's been trying to kill them enters the chat.
Sure.
Like, it felt very, because I think it's, like, 2001. So it's, like, definitely, like, an older one. But, like, it did that, like, old school thing of you think the book's done and then the 50 pages left or, like, take you on a whole other journey and you're like, what? That's kind of like what the Krusty Cole one that I read did as well. Like, I've noticed that a lot. Like, the plots are just plotting the entire time, and then, like, you're like, oh, we're done. No, we're not. So yeah,
well,
it was great.
On the complete opposite end of that spectrum, I told you I got one for every pirate romance mood. So if you're like, that sounds very silly, and for some reason you're not down with that, you're like, I want just the most meticulously researched political intrigue pirate romance. Across a Moonlit Sea by Marcia Canham. This is the first in, I don't know how many books are in this. I don't know if it's a trilogy. There's at least one book called the Iron Rose, I want to say, that I almost started with that one, but then I realized that this was also on my TBR, so I started with the first one.
Gotcha.
It is so, it's like, I almost got lost in the like not politics exactly, but the romance took a little bit of a backseat. I didn't really mind that. I thought it was still great, but it you will get into the nitty gritty of like being on a ship and we are in a sea battle and you are going to hear about the cannons and you are going to hear about how the navigator is turning the rudder and the sails are doing this. You're going to get all the information.
You're going to be below deck, high seas.
So we start with so it's during Queen Elizabeth's I rule, and the Spanish are I don't know history. There are rumors that the Spanish are raising an armada.
Oh yeah, one of my books has something to do with something about that.
Yeah, but Queen Elizabeth doesn't like spending money. And she can't really use tax money to build her own navy or like build up the navy. If there is doubt about that, like they're not technically at war with Spain yet. But Spain is being Spain and the Inquisition is inquisitioning. So we start with these two ships. Oh, so Queen Elizabeth has these privateers that are like, it's a whole bunch of privateers. They're known as like sea wolves or sea. No,
well,
he's a wolf.
Yeah, Pirate Wolf is the series name.
Yeah, no, he's the Pirate Wolf. Sea Hawks, maybe? That sounds wrong. It sounds like the football team, but I feel like I might be right.
Seattle? The term came from somewhere. Let's just say it came from across a moonlit sea and history, but basically across moonlit sea. Football, romance, intersection.
Seahawks. Yeah, dashing privateers known as Seahawks banded together to guard their country and their queen against the invincible, not invisible, armada being amassed by Spain.
I wonder if people from Washington and or the surrounding states intrinsically knew that. Like, they're like, we know what a fucking Seahawk is. Like, it's part of their lore. So I feel like the Washingtonians or whatever they're called. They
my apologies to Washingtonians.
Is that what I have my no apologies idea. If that's not the correct. I don't know.
The point is, we start the book with Simon Dante, who is a Frenchman but is a privateer for Elizabeth. I don't really know what is going on there. It doesn't matter. So he has his ship, and I am blanking on his name. It's like something Blood. He has an ominous sounding last name.
Bloodsucker, fame fucker.
So true. So true. I don't remember his name. But he's another one of the privateers, and they each have He's a British, and they do not like each other, but they've been on this daring mission to go, I don't even remember what it was, but they went and stole a bunch of stuff from Spain. And nobody thought it could be done, but they did it. But now their ships are both damaged.
The entire plot of Ocean's 11, 12, and 13.
They've got all these Spanish ships after them, and they're like hiding behind an island, and they've got to get out of here. And they don't like each other, but they hatch this plan where Simon is going to sail his ship out and like draw fire, essentially. And then the other guy, whose name I'm forgetting but is very ominous, is going to come out from the other side while they're distracted and start pew 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 shooting down these ships. So he goes out, he pulls fire from these 6 different Spanish ships. His ship is taken damage. He's waiting for the other guy. He sees the other guy sailing away. He has taken all of the remaining provisions and dumped the rest of the sea and yeeted himself out of there, leaving Dante and his crew for dead. So they take out 4 of the 6 ships alone and then leave the other 2 critically damaged. However, they're not doing great by the end of this battle. Meanwhile, there's this little merchant vessel. And our heroine is on this vessel. She's the daughter of the captain, and she's also the ship's navigator and also a cartographer. So she is living her best life, truly. And they find this ominous boat floating, and they go see what's going on because it looks pretty beat up. And they find a bunch of guys who have been stranded for 2 weeks with no water, and it's clear their ship has been absolutely ravaged. And then it turns out it's Simon Dante, a very notorious guy, the pirate wolf. And he basically is like, I need to put all of these very fancy and one-of-a-kind guns on your ship because I don't really care about the treasure, but these big cannons do need to survive. And the other pirate is, merchant. The captain's like, I don't know about that. And Dante is like, I'm actually seizing control of your vessel right now. And I'm taking your daughter with me to ensure that everything goes smoothly. She's really pissed about it. He doesn't really care. He's just trying to get his stuff onto the other ship. He does. She's mad about it. But then he's like, hey man, really sorry about having to do that. I just really needed to move these guns over. And the other captain's like, you know what, fair enough. You are a very notorious guy, and I respect it. And then they just kind of hang out on the high seas. And then they find, well, he has documents that he's trying to translate because it proves that Spain is building an armada. And they have to crack this code. And also they're banging because she's like, you know what, fair enough, you're really hot, I would like to do that. And then other privateers show up, including the bad guy, and they go to invade because they've cracked the code and they have to go take out all these ships that Spain is going to use. And there are more sea battles. And at one point they do fuck in the rigging. They do fully bang in the rigging because she had taken over the watch and then she fell out of the tower and got caught in the rigging. And he's like, oh no, because he sees her caught in the sail essentially, about to die, and he climbs up there and grabs her, and then they're very horny and he fingers her, and I was like, in the rigging? And then they full on
at a height?
Yeah.
Or have they crawled down?
No, in the rigging.
Oh my. High in the rigging. Wow.
Yeah, 30 feet off the deck, I believe, is the... And then they full on have sex. And I can't quite... I thought they were just up in the rigging, but then it mentions them straddling a yardarm. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's, holding the mast.
Oh.
And they're straddling a yardarm. And they're also, but they're, looped into the rigging. I don't know, but apparently the author has a note on her website about how that's actually possible.
I love that for her.
So...
She had 2 Barbie dolls, fake pirate ship, and a dream.
Just so much detail about ships. It's also very funny for some reason. These 2 lines really stuck with me, where number 1, there's also a side plot where they take a Spanish vessel and they're traveling with a Spanish Duchess on board, and they take her as a hostage type situation, but one of the sailors is he falls in love with her. So that's a whole thing that's happening in the background of all of this. But while they're there, the Spanish captain guy is not pleased about this, and he shoots, aiming for Isabel. Or no, sorry, at him. She pushes him and ends up getting shot. It grazes her temple. Mm-hmm. And when she comes to, that man doesn't have a face anymore because Dante shot his face off. As you do. And some guy walks in and goes, Christ Jesus, he doesn't have a head. And his response is, yeah, he lost it in a moment of carelessness. As you do.
We've all had those days. Everybody has those days. Everybody makes mistakes.
That, and at one point, one woman is described as having a face that could launch 1,000 ships in the other direction. And I think that's the funniest line I've ever read, actually. Tell me that's not so funny. That stuck with me. That lodged itself into my little brain.
That's so sad. That's a good one.
Yeah, so it's full of those little gems where you're like, why is it so funny randomly?
Oh my.
Ugh.
Okay.
So there you have it.
She had a face that could launch.
Oh, also in his past, he had been like taken by the Spanish Inquisition and like tortured and stuff. So that's why he hates the Spanish. Just as a side note, it's a little bit on the darker side, but not crazy.
Taken by the Spanish Inquisition could also be a romance title.
I don't really think so.
Add taken by. Add taken by in front of anything, and it can be a romance title. Taken by the
could
blank.
be, but should it?
No. Oh, I just removed my
nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Romance reasons. Taken by the blank.
Ugh.
Well, I read this one because I simply... Ooh, I have to plug in my laptop. Hold on.
No.
Hold, please, or else we won't have a podcast. Oh, shit. I'm not, like, terrified that it's gonna, like, cut out. Oh my god, Hannah. Wow. That was crazy pressure. I'm back. So this one's just been on my TBR because it's the first Cressley Cole book that she ever wrote in 2003. And at least I think, like, in her Goodreads, like, that's as far as it goes back is 2003. And then the next one in the series is 2004. It's The Captain of All Pleasures. And this is, again, one that's kind of, like, piratical adjacent. Like, pirates a state of mind, not a state of being at this point. Because they're all basically, like, privateers. And they all have, well, but not even that. They have, like, shipping lines. So they're just, they got big boats. But not really pirates. But,
they do lie.
They don't lie, yeah. And he looks piratical. He's huge. And there's a pirate ship on the cover. Anywho. Yeah. I feel like she wrote this book and then she turned around at probably the same time and wrote the Memoirs After Dark, the second or the third, the one that we read for book club, all that, the one with Sebastian, when they go on that, like, kind of, this, because this is a great race. And then there's like an Immortals After Dark one where they're also on like a huge game. It's like a game world traveling thing. And there were just parallels there. I was like, did she really want to just keep writing like the
Amazing Race?
The Amazing Race, yeah. Yeah. But basically there are two well, there are a bunch of different shipping lines in this competition. You get notoriety. There are like a bunch of benefits to winning, and both of them, her father and then him, they have two independent lines, and they each need to win for different reasons. And it starts out, and she enters basically like a notorious like bar/brothel looking for her father, who is like doing recon on some situation that he's been investigating, and she meets the notorious captain. No, Derek Sutherland, unfortunately. She like makes eyes across the bar at him, and he's like, stay. She's like, I can't, I have to go. He thinks she's a courtesan or a prostitute. He doesn't know, like, he has no clue who she is in relation to this other guy, his mortal enemy. And her father's like, stay away from him, don't do it. And she's kind of like, well, what if I did? So then she goes back home. She hears a sound in the middle of the night. She goes to investigate it. Someone's trying to like break into their ships. She is on the verge of being attacked, and it's like a whole thing. She gets saved by Derek Sutherland, and then he takes her aboard his boat, just for safety reasons. And then he's like, well, this is great. Now I can bang her. Like, I've been thinking about her. Now I've got her.
Well, this is perfect.
He literally was like,
love the way this has worked out for me.
Yeah. He's like, fate was great to me tonight. And then they make out a little bit, but they don't have sex. He like tucks her in, gives her his socks. So she like spends the night because she can't go anywhere else. Then she like sneaks out of his place in the morning. Like, he like sleeps with her. Like, he's like, what if I like get naked and like crawl in next to her, but don't do anything? And so he did it. And I was on his side, honestly. I was like, why
are they all acting on their like
piratical urges?
Piratical urges, but like impulsive
Yeah.
Like, intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, well, because he's like, I sleep naked, so why would I ever consider maybe putting on some fucking pajamas? Like, no, I'm just gonna sleep naked next to her. And so then she wakes up and she's like, he fully has no clothes on. And she's like, well, I gotta get out of here because my dad's definitely looking for me, and like my ship crew is also looking for me, and like it was a whole thing. So she walks out of his ship, his crew sees her, she's just like swaggering out. And she like looks at his like pirate, like his like navigational like plans and everything. She like corrects them because he made a mistake.
Slay.
And so he like, because he thought that she was, since he thought she was a prostitute, he was like explaining like everything very like simply about shipping and everything. And then she was like, yeah, okay, bud. And then when he's asleep, she like corrects it all, and he's like, oh, well, that I made a fool of myself. Not only for sleeping naked, but also for underestimating her intelligence. Fast forward, her father is none too happy that she spent the night at the notorious Derek Sutherland's boat. And so he storms out in a little rage, just absolutely attacks Derek. Like, they're just having a fist fight. He's also an earl, Derek. So the father gets tossed in jail because that's
why are the
pirates?
I know he's not a pirate, but why are the pirates always also British nobility?
Yeah,
or French?
Yeah.
Why are all these nobles also pirates?
I know.
Confused.
Definitely confused. I was like, what? He's an earl? Okay. So yeah. So since it's a crime to do what the father did to him, he's in jail. And then she is distraught over that. And then even though Derek like tries to like get the father like out of jail, like there's some corruption going on, so they're like keeping the father in jail. He can't sail. She's like, well, I'm still gonna sail and win this race because like our shipping line is on the line if we don't win. So then his like second becomes the captain or whatever, and then she like helps sail that ship. Well, she knows his travel plans, which are like very dangerous and going close to Antarctica and all that shit. And there's sabotage going on that they don't know. That's what the father was investigating in the brothel. And so like their rudder falls off at the beginning, and then they're being towed by like a commercial thing. And then there's like a huge storm, and basically the ship falls apart, and she's like tied, like everyone like ties himself down to this boat. And so like the Derek's boat is they like weather the storm like pretty well. His ship was poisoned. Like all of their water supply was poisoned, so like they're all kind of like throwing up, probably pooping everywhere. And then her ship is weathering the storm terribly, and so basically Derek thinks that she poisoned the water because she was in that section of the boat when she left his boat the night before or whatever, or a few nights before. And so when they like bring on the entire crew of her ship and her and all that onto his boat, and she's like super happy. She's like, yeah, he rescued me. But no, they've like imprisoned them all, and like they've like interred or whatever all the crew. And he's like super angry at her. He feels hurt, betrayed. She feels hurt and betrayed because she doesn't know what he's angry at her about. It's a whole thing. And so then a lot of that book is where she's kind of like his prisoner. And then he figures out that she didn't do it. And then it's a whole thing. And a lot of it was on a boat. Like a lot of this book was on a boat. And then fast forward, the race happens, shenanigans happen with that. Fast forward to like the bombshell secret that he drops, which I don't quite. I'm not gonna spoil it because honestly, I think you should read this book. Like it's Kresley's first book. I feel like it's foundational. But like I was not prepared, and there was not a lot of the book left for them to drop that shit on me. So then I was like, huh? And so then they get back to England, and long story short, he couldn't marry her, and she was really upset about it. So then he leaves, doesn't tell her why, and then he has to reckon with that, and it's a whole thing. But it was good. Like, it was good. I don't know. I will say the 50 pages, I was like, huh? A lot happened at the end of that book that I was not prepared for, but it was still good, and I thought it was like dramatic, and I thought they like came together in a good way. But you could see a lot of like Shiver Me Timber. You could see a lot of Cressley like later, like her later books, like in this one. And I got because he has a brother who was like running the estate because this dude was like a drunk and his life was ruined by the big secret that we found out later in the book. So then the brother is going to go in the next book to rescue this nobleman's family who has been lost at sea for years. So he's volunteered for this mission, and he's gonna take his boat because he and his brother Derek own the shipping line. So he's gonna take one of their boats, go off to foreign lands, and find this deserted or like this family that everyone assumes is dead, but obviously the heroine is part of this family, so she's not dead, not a ghost yet, and a vampire. But yeah, so I'm gonna be reading that. I ordered it from Half Price Books because the Kindle book is $10, and on Amazon the mass market is like $12, and I was like, no. So there are a few on Pango Books as well, and libraries didn't have it. Quite rude, but the writing was really good. I read it in a day, and a lot happened. And like I talked for a while, but I gave like a pretty vague, like there was still a lot that happened, like I didn't cover, and like their dynamic was really fun, and all the boat shenanigans I really enjoyed. So yeah.
Wow.
Good old Cressley. I wish she would write more because I still have her other historical, like that trilogy that she has that isn't A Morals After Dark that I need to read soon.
I mean, there's also like contemporary series and things.
Yeah, she's got the Arcana Chronicles. That one doesn't interest me as much. It's like closer to YA, like I've seen in her Facebook group. It's super long as well, and it's still being written, which also doubly terrifies me. I'm already in IAD. I can't take on anything else. Yeah, she's got like the Game Maker, the Professional, like that. I wonder what she would do in contemporary. So, but for that, I think that was her first book. For that being her first book, I mean that's crazy. I can see why she went places. So, yeah.
Well, there you have it. I'm going full pirate, full dark.
Ooh.
Full. This is a tortured individual. This man.
Uh-oh.
He's a bad guy. But is he? The Pirate Prince by Galen Foley, which
she writes some. I read one of hers and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Galen Foley. So I've been meaning to read Princess, which turned out to be the second book in this series. It's giving me I know you haven't read it, but if anybody's read Shadowheart by Laura Kinsale, it really, really reminded me of that one. They have a similar like Italian princes who have been, or well, I don't think he's really a prince in Shadowheart, but basically Italian princes who have been like exiled or ousted or are no longer there, and then they take a girl who is connected and they go on a very long dramatic quest to like take back the kingdom or whatever. And also Shadowheart, the hero we actually met in For My Lady's Heart, he was much younger in that one. And was he had things to do with the heroine. And in this one you meet Santiago, I can't remember Darius Santiago. You meet him pretty late in the book, but they kind of take him on and end up taking him as a ward. And he becomes, I think, if I just read the description for Princess, the second book in the series, I think he becomes their spy and falls in love with their daughter.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. So anyway, you have this Italian island, and of course, if you know anything about Italian history, it's all divided into a bazillion different pieces, and everybody's constantly getting conquered by other people and whatever. So it's this fictional, I think, island called Ascension, and they used to have a royal line, and years ago, the entire royal family was murdered. there is some conspiracy, but we, the reader, know that the now governor, who is the Genoese have taken over, but the governor, who is the Monteverdi line, was responsible for killing the king and his family. And his daughter is the heroine. She is very much like the people are suffering and she wants to fix it. Pro people's rights, pro old ascension. She's pretty rebellious. Well, inwardly rebellious. Like she loves her father. She was raised in Paris, brought back to Ascension, loves her father, but doesn't really know him. Wants to like help the people, so she's gotten herself betrothed to this guy who's gonna help her with all of this. Meanwhile, there's this rumor, this legend, because the oldest prince, Lazar, who was like, I think 13 or something at the time of the murder, he was chased down by guards to a cliff and ended up taking a dive off a like 200-foot cliff into some rocky
the
water.
Cliffs of Insanity.
And they never recovered his body. So
Classic.
It's pretty much understood that he's dead, because how could you survive that? But, of course, the people are kind of keeping this hope alive that the prince is still alive. Lazar sure is still alive. He does not want to be the king. He does not care about any of that. His life has been consumed with the concept of vendetta. So he has come back.
Vendetta?
Yeah, it's Italian. He has come back to his plan, kidnap the governor's daughter, kill her in front of her dad to make him suffer the same thing that he suffered, and then kill every single member of the Monteverdi family.
Whoa.
So he goes, he finds her, she's like out amongst the people, she almost gets raped by her betrothed, and he rescues her from that. So she doesn't know who he is, except that he's hot. Also, she's seen a portrait of Prince Lazar, and he's like her fictional, like she's in love with this idealized version of this long-lost prince, so that's a whole thing for her, but she doesn't recognize him, and she thinks he's a rebel, so she's going with him, but then suddenly he's like holding her hostage, and then all of a sudden he realizes that she's wearing the colors of like old Ascension, and that she actually is not like her father, and he's like, perfect, I didn't want to kill her anyway, because he like thought she was so beautiful and naive and charming. He was like, I just won't kill her.
You're so beautiful and naive and charming.
Yeah. He's like,
Marry
this is
me.
great news for me. He locks her in a tower. He lets all of his like soldiers in to take over the he takes over. He tells the dad who he is. It's a whole thing. She ends up she like breaks out of the tower, but then gets taken by one of the guys and like locked in a ship. And as soon as he realizes that she's not there, he loses his mind, goes and finds her, kills that guy, drags her back, and he's intending to like let her say goodbye to her father, but like that doesn't work out. So he gives her to this other, like his like tutor, who's like a very nice guy who's just been on the ship with him for like 10 years. He's like, here, watch her, make her go to bed. Like, she's really tired. You take care of that. I'm gonna go deal with this vendetta. And the guy is like, this whole thing he wants to carry out, the tutor is telling her, he's like, I need you to go stop him, because it is going to tar his soul for eternity. So she heads on up there. He has rounded up her entire family, like extended family, against the cliffs, and has basically a giant firing squad.
Oh my, it's giving the Romanovs. Oh my god.
It is giving the Romanovs. And he is about to kill her entire family. And she's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, goes to sacrifice herself, is like, you have to kill me if you're gonna kill them. He doesn't want to. He's been feeling conflicted this whole time, but he has to go through with it. He's also deeply suicidal. Like on page, deeply suicidal. He's like, I just have to do this, basically, and then I can go like do what I've been wanting to do this whole time. Anyway, she ends up persuading him not to do it, but then her dad kills himself anyway, just like her mom killed herself supposedly years ago. She has agreed to like go with him and be his slave, essentially, like do whatever he wants to her, as long as he doesn't kill her whole family. And eventually he's like, you know what, fuck it, fine, you all can live, I don't want to do this. It's fine. Sails away with her. He doesn't rape her and alludes to the fact that that's because he knows how it feels. And so you get hints of this, like, deeply traumatic past, because where has he been in the past, like, 10 plus years? Experiencing the horrors. That's where he's been.
The horrors?
The horrors, but, like,
just the horrors.
Just the absolute horrors. This is where the, like, anti-Middle Eastern stuff kicks in, which is that unfortunate side effect of some, not side effect, unfortunate feature of some old school. The villains are often, like, sheikhs.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, that is what that is. But they, like, go off. He doesn't plan on going home, and she doesn't even believe that he's the long-lost prince for a hot minute. But he is, and then he lets her believe that he's not. And then eventually she's convinced, and she's like, okay, well, you need to, like, go back and take your kingdom back because they were suffering. And he's like, no. And she's, like, mad about it. And eventually he decides he is going to do that. But if he's going to do that, he's got to go back to that guy who horribly abused him and he was a slave for, because he has this ring, and the ring fits into the sword, and the sword's been passed down through the generation. So he needs that to prove he is who he says he is. So they got to go deal with that. And meanwhile, he can't marry her because he believes that he's cursed and that everyone he loves is going to die. So he doesn't want to put her through that. It's a whole thing. And also, again, deeply traumatized and on-page suicidal. Like, he almost commits suicide and she has to, like, stop him. So heavy content warnings for, like, mental health. There's just a lot happening here. And I ate up every page. I listened to the audiobook, and I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that because they do, like, Italian accents for both of them, and I don't love his.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, it's a long one. I ate it up. It was so dramatic. I think if you like Laura Kinsale, like Shadowheart for My Lady's Heart, they have very similar
that
vibes.
Sounds terrifying.
It's a lot of, like, they're on the ocean, and but he wants to bang her, but he doesn't. Well, he does eventually, obviously.
Well, he does, guys.
But he, like, threatens to rape her, but he's never actually gonna do it. But then he kind of almost does, but then he's like, no. He does finger her while she's asleep, which feels like it crosses a line for me, but you know what? It is what it is. I loved it, though. Why did it kind of hit? I was like, this poor, deeply traumatized man, my favorite kind.
Whoa.
It's also kind of biblical. She refers to him as, like, they read the story of Jonah, and from that point forward, she very much associates him with Jonah, and his ship is called the Whale. And there's, like, some biblical allusions in there.
Oh, my. You do have a book for every piratical mood.
I told you.
Because I was not in that piratical mood. Like, none of my books reached that level.
I mean, it was intense. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it was in ships.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So yeah, if you're like, I just want I want trauma, I want, like, almost genocide that he doesn't go through with. I
don't know if that would
a suicidal hero who was a slave for a while.
So basically, if you have a very particular,
if you're like, I just want
list
angst.
Yeah.
And also for them to be on a ship, and he's a pirate, but his crew doesn't know that he's a prince also. This is the one where he's referred to as the he's the
burner of cities or something.
Yeah, the oh my gosh. Why will you not? The devil of Antigua. The curse, the damned, slayer of innocence, burner of cities.
Burner of cities.
By the way, they don't really ever get into all that stuff that he did. They never talk about him burning cities and slaying innocents. Because as far as we know, he almost kills all those people, but then he doesn't because he's so, like, tortured about it. Mm-hmm. And then she does a whole, like, Hail Mary situation. I mean, not in the Bible. Like, she goes up and does, like, a Virgin Mother type pose, and it strikes him, and he's like, "Oof, I can't kill all these people."
He says, "Woof."
And that's a direct quote.
I believe you.
What are the direct quotes from that one, actually? I didn't have a lot. Oh, slay. Since you are so very curious, my clever Miss Monteverde, let me tell you just what I am. A sea captain, an exile, a pirate, Miss Monteverde, and your new master.
God, these pirates are so dramatic.
They are so
That
dramatic.
is one consistent theme. They're always so dramatic, and they're like, I'm the worst person you're ever gonna meet.
They all
Deal with
that.
it.
Or they're like, I'm gonna flay the skin off your bones if you
Yeah.
ever do this thing again. And
Yeah.
then instead they like
Literally, they're like
tuck you
tucking them
into
in.
bed.
Like so many tuck them into bed, give them big socks, feed them, like literally like tell
Yeah.
their crew like if you touch a hair on her head, if you look at her wrong, like I will flay you alive.
Is
But
that
like I'm gonna
not
tell her
all
that I'm
our-
gonna like feed her to
Our
you. Like it's a whole
innermost
thing.
dream.
Yeah.
Is that not what all of like historical romance is?
Yeah. And that's why like the piratical element adds an extra level of like security for me.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I want the pillaging and
Mhm.
like the implied like I'm gonna like all the like the ravishing and all that. Like it just really puts me in the piratical mood.
Mhm.
You know, like some things weren't great, but I was like, you know, it's
But
for
he's
the
a
pirates.
pirate.
It's
But
for the
he's a pirate.
pirates.
Yeah.
In terms of like consent and all that, I just find it like super hot in pirate shit. And I feel like it's still like I like it in other books too, but the pirates just add an extra element.
And so when I was at, like I have a rec for any pirate mood, I think that like
Mhm.
I've got the ones where you can kind of, you know, it's just like a little hint of pirate, but nothing crazy. And then I've got, you know, the other end where he's like tortured and maybe gonna kill your whole
Mhm.
family and whatever.
Mhm.
And I feel like all of those are valid.
Mhm. And I
I've got a
haven't.
whole spectrum of pirates. Well, but I saw a review. So the one that we both are part of the way
Yeah.
through, which we'll talk about in a second. The Galen Foley, I saw reviews from people who like a lot
Mhm.
of the I mean, it's one of those ones where it gets a lot of like 4 and 5 star reviews, but then for some reason the first ones that pop up are all like 1 and 2 stars,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what is the truth?
It's so confusing.
And they were all like how much they hated the hero and how awful and irredeemable he was, which
Mhm.
was not my experience. They're like the things he said to her, and the only thing I can possibly think of is that at the end he tries to white fang her.
Mm.
Where he's like, you're awful in it, or not you're awful, but like, I don't want you, like, I don't even want you as a
Yeah.
Mitch, because he thinks that she's gonna die because everyone he's ever loved has died, and he's like deeply
Yeah.
traumatized, and he hasn't worked through his emotions yet, so he tries to get rid of her, and then ends
Mhm.
up groveling, like, on his
As he should.
knees. And he suffered so much in his life that I didn't even need that much groveling, honestly,
Mhm.
like, this poor man.
I just wanna give him a hug.
But so I thought it was so funny that they're like, I hated him, like he did these awful things. And I was like, you picked up a book called The Pirate Prince. Why did you expect the
Mhm.
Pirate Prince to not be kind of a bad guy?
Yeah, I will say that I don't think any of us, there are just 2 of us on this podcast. Either of us read one that was like a bodice ripper, or like
Well,
that there was
this is the
actually
closest I got, and
Yeah,
there
I
were
was like that there
people
was
writing
actual like
reviews being like, I hated him.
yeah, like there was no like none of the ones that I read at least
Yeah.
had, I mean there was like some blurry stuff, but
Yeah.
none of it was like anything that we read in like Sky Amalie or The Flame and the Fall, like none of that.
Yeah.
And so like I haven't I mean they're out there.
Yeah.
I just don't know which ones they are.
Well, that's,
that
I'm like,
is
that was so tame compared to what I was expecting
Yeah.
from like a dark pirate. Well,
Yeah.
and then so the one that we both started but have
Mhm.
not finished. I screenshotted this review because it made me cackle. It was a like 3-star review. Like she says it's just okay, like just couldn't get into it. Shout out to Eloisa. I don't know who this is. We're not friends on Goodreads, but your review made me laugh. So far-fetched that I couldn't get into it. To me, pirates need to be assholes, not sympathetic wieners who fall in love
I read that.
instantly and take their women out for picnics in the park. Slit someone's throat for Pete's sake and then make love to me. Get with it, man. That's my new favorite review. Slit someone's throat for Pete's sake and then make love to me. Get with it, man. And I'm enjoying the one.
I was like, I read that book and I didn't agree with that review in the sense that I don't think he was a great, or like I'm like 70% through. And I don't think he was ever like that much of a simp.
Well, I'm only 30%, 35,
Yeah.
and I also don't think that he's a simp. I think
Yeah.
he's pretty piratical in the sense that he's a pirate on land. But
he's a land pirate, guys.
So I don't agree with that. However,
yeah,
that
is a great
love
line.
that sentiment.
Yeah.
If you're gonna read a pirate romance,
Yeah, like I still have 30% left. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I tried to get as much of it read as I could because he's Captain Doom. This is a Thief of Hearts by Teresa Medeiros.
Yes.
It's just so we read last year, After Midnight and The Vampire Who Loved Me, and I've read A Kiss to Remember by her as well. And After Midnight really reminds me of this one because like. You're so confused. Like, you don't know who's who in After Midnight. Like, you think that someone's a vampire, but then someone else. Like, it's a whole thing. And she's a very clever writer, and that's how I feel with this one, because I was very thrown off.
Oh, I feel like I know what's going on. But, well, I'm only at, like, 35%.
Yeah. But then I was like, but maybe, like, I had all these theories, because she writes it in a way that I was like.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, it kind of shaped up to be how I thought it was, but I was like, like, I had a bunch of different things. And I think one of my theories. Yeah. And it's like she's a very clever writer and I really enjoy her writing. And yeah, I mean, I'm like 70% through. So like I feel like I got to a point where now it's kind of just like the denouement. And like everything's kind of like going however it's gonna go. Like I know the gist of it. But I think it's very good. Like I really enjoy her writing.
I was gonna say I really like just the style. I have so many highlights. Some books I'll highlight like a couple of things. If it's an ebook or like if it's an audio, I'll like write down quotes that really stick with me, and it'll only be one or two. This one I have quite a few because
because the premise of the book is that like the first chapter or whatever like gave me such Pirates of the Caribbean movie 1 vibe when Elizabeth is a child, and also kind of just like the beginning of that movie in general where like she's like on this boat and it gets taken over by pirates and it's a little bit gloomy and like mysterious. You don't quite know what's happening, and then she gets kidnapped by a pirate, and then she has this like encounter with him, Captain Doom, might I add. Like they were telling stories about him, and then he shows up. She thinks he's maybe a phantom, maybe a ghost, like doesn't quite know. And like it was just so atmospheric. And I was like, whoa, I'm really feeling it. And then her father is this admiral who is just an asshole and holds her to these like entirely too high standards, and basically thinks that his wife was a whore, so his daughter can't be anything out of line, and he's bad, and he's the direct enemy of Captain Doom. And then she goes home after Captain Doom tosses her overboard. He's like, I hope she can swim.
Hang on, because I highlighted it.
He's so
surely you've heard of pirates making their victims walk the plank. She nodded mutely. Her back came up against the starboard rail. He leaned forward until their noses touched. Well, I haven't any plank.
So yeet.
And then snatches her up, kisses her briefly, savagely, and then shoves her over the rail in the middle of
she stabbed him,
by the way.
Yeah. So she's already stabbed him at this point with a letter opener. She tried to go for his heart. She couldn't do it. Goes for his shoulder. He's like, oh, you got me.
His response is, you just, nope, sorry, I highlighted this too.
Yeah, it was a good response. It's like the closing of that.
Why, you treacherous little witch, you stabbed me.
And then at the end, he has this at the end of that chapter, he's like, something about his heart and her taking it or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. He is down bad for her.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, I will admit that.
I was down bad for him.
Me too. He tosses her over, and then he's like, can she even swim? So he's like gonna go jump in after her. So he's like literally like getting ready to have to go jump in and save her, but then she starts to swim to the other ship. So then he's like, okay, fine, then we can leave now. Because he was like literally like, his crew was like, bro, we gotta go. And he's like, well, no, I have to wait and see that she can like gets to safety. And then when she finally is, he's like, okay, let's get out of here. And then fast forward, she's being interrogated by her father, and again, he's a dick. And it was such a weird, because she kind of like idolizes him, and she's like craving his affection. And so like she starts out that way, and then like throughout the book, she starts to be like, maybe I don't want to be like the perfect daughter, and like you're kind of fucked up, and then you're like really fucked up and all of that. And then she gets a bodyguard because the father's like, you need to be safe. You were kidnapped once. What's going to stop them from doing it again? So then her bodyguard just sounds so hot. I mean,
when he like
glasses,
hates her, but he also doesn't.
Yeah, it's a really weird dynamic, but it compelled me though. Like And mind you, this is like all in part 1. I forgot that there was a part 1 until I got to part 2.
Oh.
And I was like, uh-oh. Yeah. Yeah,
Ah.
that's when I put in my Goodreads, you commented on it. That's why I was like scared, because that like directly at 50%, it was like part 2. I was like, huh? And then like they end part 1 in a way where I was like, who is who? I was like, what? And then part 2, you're like, oh. And then it's like a whole thing, and then she's on the boat, and you get more Captain Doom.
Oh, I love Captain
And
Doom.
yeah, and then she's like taking on the entire boat, and they all love her, and he's like upset about it's a whole thing.
Well, also, can we just talk
yeah.
about like the sheer? Let me just read you this quote, because this is from chapter 2, and there are lots of random bits like this. He had sacrificed desire on the altar of his revenge, as he had all other pleasures and emotions that might distract him from its consummation.
I sure did
That's
highlight
the
that
vibe
one.
of the writing. But then also, sorry, sir, the Iron Maiden was occupied. Kevin was sleeping in it. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Kevin! Yeah, well, because the intro, the whole, like, prologue starts with a kid, his mother was a prostitute, she's dying, giving birth to a child. The kid has to bury his mother, defend her from, like, one guy who wants a tumble, and then he's like, look at her, and he's like, oh my god, I'm leaving because she's pregnant, she's gonna die. And then he has the baby, and then no mother, and it's a whole thing, and you're like, okay. Teresa does love a dramatic prologue.
I also love a dramatic prologue.
Mm-hmm.
What's even the point of a prologue if it doesn't make you go, oh?
I know.
Loretta Chase.
Ooh, yeah.
Nobody did a prologue like that prologue.
Mm-mm. But truly, like, Teresa, like, her writing is just so good. Like, I was blown away with After Midnight, and, like, she hasn't disappointed me writing-wise. Like, I think the lowest I've rated her book is, like, 3.75, and that was A Vampire Who Loved Me, if it was still rounded up to 4. Like, this one, don't think it's gonna be less than 4. Could be 5. I really enjoyed the bodyguard dynamic.
Do you like the bodyguard?
I really liked their chemistry and like how that kind of developed, because at first I was kind of like, why is he being the way he is? And then like they start to like spend time together, and like the way that he kind of like, there's a whole like ice around his heart like starts cracking, and like that was in a lot of these pirate books, like all these pirates think they can't love, and then lo and behold,
they're married to the sea.
Yeah, they're married to the sea, and
robbing
to their
people.
woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I also, I mean, again, I'm only at like 35%, so I haven't really gotten to the point where she started to kind of break out of her.
Yeah.
I mean, she does. You note it like when she's away from her father.
Yep.
But I just think the dynamic between her and her father is so.
Yeah.
I mean, like just well written. I think a lot of times abusive relationships are like emotionally abusive ones can be kind of overwrought in fiction, where they're so overtly.
Yeah.
But it's just such like the way she was raised is so fascinating.
And then there's a scene where they're in a carriage and it's raining, and then they're in the, like the tough part of London. This is a different one, I believe. I don't think you've gotten here yet. Maybe
another one? Because there's at least one. They're in a carriage.
There a child?
Yeah, and the kid gets run over.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
My concept of time. But yeah, that was crazy. And then he was like, if she like looks at this town or like this part of town with disdain, like bad but also good, like I don't want to love her, and then she like shows emotion, he's like, oh my god, like she's a good person, and it's like a whole thing, and you could see the war within himself, and it's
and then they have a lovely little carriage picnic in the rain.
And then her father wrecks all the charming vibes.
The rage that I feel.
It's really, I know, it's really good.
It's doing things to me. It got me immediately. It really, the prologue, I was like, ooh, okay. And then you get the, like you said, very Pirates of the Caribbean, like, atmosphere. Captain Doom. He's so hot. There's another, not me just literally reading my highlights. Because there's a line where
the first like sex scene where he like fingers her, and she's like,
I'm not there yet.
Oh my god, it's so good. So when, wow, I have like I do not apparently know the order of this book. I really thought that happened before the child.
No.
But now I guess it makes sense that it happens after that, because then he can finally like,
Tell me, Lucy, what do you plead so prettily for? Your life? He wove his fingers through her hair, making her captivity absolute. Or your soul? What is going on? What is happening?
Yeah.
Why is your name Captain Doom? It's hot.
And we get the definition. We get the reason why he's named Captain Doom.
Oh, slay. I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why, because it got me right away too. And I was just so like discombobulated and like, what? And then I see all these reviews are like, I just couldn't get into it.
What do you
like
mean?
4 chapters in, like I don't feel like I'm like, what? You're not like in the least bit like curious? Like, again, opinion's your opinion. I do not care like if you don't like this book. But personally, I'm just like, I don't know how you're not.
I mean, I was hooked from the prologue, but definitely
Yeah.
from chapter 1.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I think I'm just biased. I think she's a great author. So I'm just like,
notorious pirate ship sails out of the fog looking like a ghost ship.
And then she writes it so well that you feel like you're there and that it actually is a ghost. She just, honestly, she's obviously done the paranormal. She really should have just made this freaking paranormal and made him an actual ghost. That could have been fun. But he's as close to ghosty as he can get with being a human. So she gave him the piratical ghost vibes. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really well written, and it's just, it keeps my attention and interest because it just makes me like I'm unsteady. Like she keeps me on unsteady footing, and that's how I felt in After Midnight, and I fucking loved that book.
It was a really good book.
And again, I was just like in awe of her writing. Really, I was like, I did not expect that. So I have a bunch of Teresa Medeiros, and honestly, I should like read one a week because none of them are on audio. She doesn't have, maybe a few are, but she really doesn't have any audiobooks, which is hard for my soul. She's stolen my soul with that. So that's why I'm only at 70%. I was really trying my damnedest, but I was like, I know enough to be like, yeah, it's not gonna like be a bad book in the last 30%. I'm just very interested to see how it's all gonna go down. I'm like, oh my god, it'd be very dramatic.
Yeah,
but Captain Doom.
I feel like we need to just leave him with Captain Doom.
Yeah. Captain Doom.
Well, eat some vitamin C, avoid scurvy.
Listen to Scurvy by Pink in collaboration with Nickelodeon and SpongeBob. Go watch The Goonies, because that's required viewing. If anywhere in town, apparently in Texas, stores used to give you free things if you talk and or dress like a pirate. I don't know if that's still happening elsewhere in the United States.
You can Google it. It's see if anybody's given anything away. They got rid of my favorite one, so what's even the point, honestly? But it's fine.
Was it the donuts?
The donuts. They might still do. I think the last time we did, not the free donuts, but they do make pirate themed donuts. That are iced to have like a Jolly Roger or something on them. So that does feel like a necessity.
Yeah.
So
I wonder. Anyone near
me, and I'll share it on my Instagram story. But last year for Pirate Day, I made a bunch of the Windflower themed memes.
Aha, you did.
So will they be as funny with absolutely no context? Probably not, but they make me laugh.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything around Minnesota doing much for Talk Like a Pirate Day.
That's really disappointing. The only one I can think of was Long John Silver's.
I see that pop up. I don't... And this is 2023. Is this just...
Well, then just celebrate in your heart.
Listen to this episode again if you...
Maybe.
I forgot. This is releasing on the day. Listen to this episode today. I was like
twice in a row? That's a lot.
Yeah, I was like that. This is like a 2.5 hour episode. Like, that's not possible. I mean, it is, but
at what cost?
I commend you if you do. You
to your soul.
Lots of doubloons. Yeah, your heart or your soul. Your soul. Yeah, I'm just gonna be reading more pirate romance. Honestly, I need that Cressley Cole second book to be delivered to my hands because I want to read that immediately.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna hit up the Iron Rose. That one is their daughter, I think. the daughter of the couple from Across a Moonlit Sea.
Nice. I kind of also want to start the Johanna Lindsey.
So many books.
I know. And there are just so many that we did not talk about, that we did not read. I have I'll leave it with 2 novellas. I haven't read them, but they are shorter. So maybe if you just want like a little...
A dose of pirate.
A dose of pirate, a hit of pirate.
What's
so 2...
It's on our list of...
We have a list?
Of pirate phrases.
Oh.
There's a name for like a shot. Like of alcohol.
A grog?
No.
No. I don't know. Well, while she's doing that, the 2 that I found that are both like 100-some pages, The Pirate and I by Catherine Ashe, that's from Avon, and then Eloisa James, Seduced by a Pirate, which is also from Avon. I would have read both of those if I would have had time and or wouldn't have procrastinated. And then there is Cynthia Wright's Stolen by a Pirate, which is a 3-hour audiobook. So that would have been about an hour and a half of my time that I did not have but should have. So yeah, those are 3 short ones that would get you a quick skosh of pirate on Talk Like Pirate Day.
This is really gonna bug me.
Yeah, I do not remember reading what a shot was in pirate terms, unfortunately. But yeah, there are literally...
Clap of thunder. Strong alcoholic drink like a shot. A little clap of thunder of pirate romance.
Literally. A little clap of thunder. Stolen by a Pirate, Seduced by a Pirate, and The Pirate and I.
New favorite term of endearment. My ferocious little corsair.
Ooh.
Great. Also fierce little corsair. Big fan.
Yeah. So honestly, there were so many choices to choose from. We both, I think, made pretty good choices.
So many choices.
But there are so many. And next year we'll be back hot with it. Honestly, we'll probably have to do another episode on pirates before that. Because this was a fun time.
They can get away with so much. They could be literally evil. And I'm like, that's kind of hot, though.
Yeah.
Because they wear, like, tight pants and leather boots and their billowy shirts. And they walk around on ships yelling. They're probably so gross and smelly, IRL. Yeah. I don't care. I would never date a pirate in real life anyway.
Georgie from Gentle Rogue was definitely smelly. He's like, bro.
That's so true.
You gotta bathe.
That's so
like,
true.
This is getting unreasonable. Like, and then he's like, well, I can't tell a woman that she needs to bathe, but like, I would tell a cabin boy, and he was so conflicted about it. But yeah, I don't know. I'll keep reading this one, but the Teresa Medeiros, but so many choices to go from. And then I feel like Sarah McLean should write a pirate one.
Oh.
Because she's got that one cover that she looks like she's dressed like a pirate. Never judge a lady by her cover or something.
There are just all of the later ones are so
Brazen and the Beast is on a boat.
That's true.
Docked boat.
But a boat nonetheless.
Yes.
It's odd that she hasn't written a pirate romance.
Right? Sarah needs to go there.
I mean, she writes like smugglers.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Like underworld, underbelly. You know what I mean? Those guys.
Yeah.
The dark underbelly of London. The Covent Garden Kings.
Mm-hmm.
I just want full pirate.
I do want full pirate. Did we find like Elisa Kleypas that one that's a pirate or
there is one? I did not read it. It is.
Is it something with love or something?
Well, probably, but only with your love.
Yeah.
I have not read that.
Yeah. Nope.
So
this is part 1.
Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum.
And really hot pirates.
Aye aye.